So apparently there are people out there who have lives and touch grass. This video is for them to understand the Destiny universe in its entirety, mostly, from the beginning to the final shape. Disclaimer: I am a stupid dummy head. Some stuff might be wrong here and there, but this is just broad strokes. This should be pretty accurate. Also, there should be chapters in this video to help you skip to different parts of the video and to help save your place if you need to watch over multiple sessions. With that said, go ahead, grab some snacks and a drink because this video gonna be girthy. Thank you and enjoy. So, according to the Holy Book of the Witness, the Destiny universe isn't the first Destiny universe. Instead of a dweeb playing Destiny, it was the gardener and the winnower testing to see what the optimal form of life is. And the Vex won a couple times, I guess. It's called the Flower Game, and it was the design of the winnower to cut down and replace anything weaker than it. The gardener kept losing and got upset, and while throwing a temper tantrum, brought in a new universe, now featuring paracausal forces. Paracausal forces being the light and the dark. They function outside of the laws of physics and the standard fabric of the universe. The two entities would fall into this new reality, and the Vex would join into Third Wheel. Anyways, the gardener is a stand-in for the traveler and the light. Wherever it goes, it brings and supports life, nature, and chaos. The winnower is the darkness. Kinda, like maybe the veil or the witness, but the winnower and the veil seem more detached from each other than the gardener and the traveler do. And actually the winnower is definitely not the witness. Anyways, the darkness deals more so with abstract things like emotions, memory, and, junk like that. The gardener would help life with gifts and blessings of the light, while the winnower would create the first blade to trim and cut down the unfit patterns to make a perfect pattern. This is a super shallow breakdown of Unveiling, a lore book given to our guardian by the Witness in an effort to convert us to their side. It isn't all that reliable, and it is kinda like a religious text for the Witness. Maybe, probably. We still aren't fully sure about the implications of the Unveiling lore book, so yeah, take it for what it is. Wait, we should probably talk about the Witness, being that it's the big bad of the final shape and the Light and Dark saga, and the franchise at this point. Basically, this cloud-ripping megamind-looking head-ass was more than one entity a long time ago. Like, extremely long ago. Okay, let's put this in consideration. The Hive Gods are billions of years old, and the Witness's civilization is way older than that. Anyways, the Traveler gave them gifts and helped them progress and prosper. The Traveler, or as the Precursors called it, the Gardener, would chill with and assist these people for millennia. And just for reference, humanity and the Elixni Golden Ages were only hundreds of years old. These Precursors would be able to spread across their solar system and expand into others under the Traveler. Eventually, the Proto-Witness civilization got a little taste of that goofy juice and tried to look into the future, becoming obsessed with a final shape, an ultimate good, the most good of goods, using AI glass minds to look through time to find the final shape. These could possibly be the Vex, but it's unsure. Multiple groups and ideologies would rise, wars were fought, and eventually we would see just a handful of factions left. The Solipsis, basically they believed in I think, therefore I am. But nothing else does. So the precursors are obviously the final shape. Well, that's an assumption. There's the nihilists, which believe that the precursors have no place in the final shape due to them causing suffering. And the precursors have no business trying to enact the final shape, as they have caused suffering. The penitent believe that they should spread the gifts of the gardener, helping the universe advance to the final shape. The precursors grew tired of worshipping and living under a silent god, who refused to speak with them. A god that gave them no explicit purpose. Eventually they would find the veil, and they planned to use it to proceed in their purpose. They would study the cosmic butt plug and the darkness. And they learned how thought and consciousness can come together to control and create structure and order, as opposed to the gardener and the light, which could make life, weapons of war, and set course for natural disasters. The gardener was chaos incarnate to the precursors, but they knew it would be needed to construct the final shape, whatever it was. So they brought the veil to the Traveler. The veil and the Traveler were once one, until the Traveler separated itself. So once the precursors hauled the veil home, the Traveler would leave them to survive. Conflict, of course, would arise, and the penitent dominated government of the precursors, the consensus, would, let's just say, deal with the nihilists, and the solipsists kind of already dealt with themselves earlier. So now the consensus can further the universe to the final shape. Members of the species, willing or not, were joined together as one. Using the veil, this created the Witness, an entire civilization reduced to one being, one perverse force of nature, filled with rage and in pursuit of one purpose, enacting the final shape. This was the collapse of the precursor species. The precursors of the Witness were no more, and in the mind of the Witness, they never existed. That mentality would extend to every world it would destroy. They were unworthy of perfection, so they were destroyed, and they never existed. The Witness would retain very few memories from the precursors. Anger with the Traveler, a desire for order, and an obsession with the final shape. Unveiling likely a mythology it granted itself and the universe in an attempt to cope with its own wicked existence. The Witness would travel the universe, hunting down the Traveler to end its chaos and to will the universe into its idea of order and perfection, the final shape. This conquest and goal couldn't possibly be done alone, even by a god among gods. So the Witness recruited disciples, powerful beings often with god complexes, who needed to prove to the universe that they were worthy of perfection. The first disciple was Rolk, the Lubraean. Lubrae was a planet that was visited by the Traveler. Traveler left and martial law ensued. Rolk was born into a nomadic clan that was looked down upon by the majority of Lubraean society. Eventually, he would join the higher society after being exiled for his bloodlust. And by join higher society, I mean he was forced to hunt down and slaughter his clan and other clans that weren't part of the regime. Lubraean government was very militaristic and controlling of their people. But the quality of life was higher in the cities compared to the outskirts where Rolk came from. And Rolk would grow to believe that the strong should control the weak for the benefit of everyone. Eventually, while hunting down his old clan, he encountered his mother and father, who he swore to kill. They were each apologetic and embraced him. psych, they threw him off of a cliff, mortally wounding him. The witness took advantage of Rolk's moment of weakness and healed him, along with convincing him to end his clan. Rolk was arrested for his actions of not killing just the men, but the women and children too. The witness broke Rolk out. Rolk renamed his weapon Lubre's Ruin, and he did just that, killing every Lubraean and destroying the planet itself. After realizing that he just committed, uber murder, he regrets his actions before his Discord kitten, the witness, says, "Hey bud, that was super poggers. Wanna do it again?" And after a toxic therapy session, the witness gaslights Rolk into becoming the first disciple. Not an exact timeline, but the witness had also visited the Fundament, a gas giant with a ton of life, including the Leviathans, who were blessed by the Traveler. The witness would teach them the sword logic. This split them. You have the Leviathans of the Traveler and the Worm Gods of the Witness. They fought, and the Worm Gods were locked away at the bottom depths of the Fundament. Rolk would later visit them, the Fundament, ripping the rib of a Leviathan out in less than a second and freeing Zeta, the Worm Mother, promising the krill to the worms as long as she serves him. One of Zeta's young would reach the Osmium Court and tell the dying king about the syzygy, a fake disaster that would never occur. The Traveler had planned on choosing the heirs to the throne, Savathun, Zyro, and Arash. The witness and Rolk acted quickly, preying on each of their fears and pride and desire for vengeance, wishing to kill their mother to avenge the king. The three siblings would journey to the deep and make a pact with the worm gods below, sealing the fate of the krill and bringing rise to the hive. Zyro, Arash, and Sathona were no more. Eventually, we would see Xivu Arath, Savathun, and Oryx. The siblings learned and practiced the sword logic, the belief that the universe needs to be trimmed and simplified. You live to kill, and if you are killed, you never deserve to exist in the first place. In other words, farming goblins in D&D until you have access to more feats. Anyways, the hive would conquer Fundament and its many moons, slaying and eating the Leviathans, joining the Witness's crusade against the Traveler and all life in the universe. One of the proto-worm god, the Leviathans, it's really unclear, named Asa, would leave the Fundament and would follow the Traveler. Through conquest, the Hive Gods would discover and create the Throne Worlds, a pocket dimension to recover from battle. But if you perish within your Throne World, you're dead in real life. Kind of. Rolk would be placed in Savathun's Throne World to keep an eye on her and guide her to discipleship. In addition to Throne Worlds, the three Hive Gods would grow more and become more powerful after every kill. So they needed a new method of keeping their worms fed to maintain their size and their power. Oryx created the tithe system. The thralls would take what they need and then pass the rest to the acolytes they were under. The acolytes give most of that to their knight, and then the knight pays a wizard, and the wizard's tithe to an ascendant hive, primarily the big three. Holy shit. It's just an MLM. It's literally a pyramid scheme. This band of goobers would hunt down and end more civilizations that were blessed by the Traveler, and many that weren't. Such was the fate of the Neosis, a species of telepathic creatures that shared brain cells. This shit sounds like my raid team. Anyways, they could link their minds together to create the Noosphere, and all was great for them. They felt a new presence within the Noosphere, and then suddenly fear and pain. The Witness. As the Witness finalized the people of Neosis, it would attempt to console them and limit their suffering, as it reshaped them, ending Neosis. Oh yeah, at some point the Witness discovered a powerful psychic named Nezarec and made him a disciple. That may have been before the Hive. It's not super clear. More on him later. Anyways, the Mystery Gang is destroying everything in their way to the Traveler. Eventually, the Hive would fight the toughest enemy they had faced to this point, the Harmony, who were fighting back against the Hive, but had to retreat into a stabilized black hole and had to bargain with the Wish Dragons, the Ahamkara. The Hive saw the Ahamkara as heretics, being that they were basically the worm gods, but without as much bloodthirst. Less. It's still definitely there, but just less of it. Also, they were dragons, not the native wildlife of Arrakis. Eventually, the Hive beat the Harmony, and the siblings would go separate ways. Xivu Arath would continue to study the blade. Savathun gaslit, gatekept, and girlboss her way into the Witness's posse. And Oryx was the navigator, discovering all truths and cutting away any that defied his sword logic. If you want a little bit more in-depth look at the Hive, especially Xivu Arath, go check out my video on the Hive God of War. The Hive gods and Nezarec were studied, written about, and even worshipped across the universe. The Scions worshipped Nezarec before the Cabal Empire nicely told them to stop it. Kaido's best friend was named after Xivu Arath. The Elixni have stories that probably are about Nezarec. Same with pre-Golden Age humanity. But that one is definitely about Nezarec. The game would continue as it had been. The Witness and its disciples hunt the Traveler. The Hive destroy worlds and gain power. Oryx would be granted the power to take. A method of ripping sentient beings out of reality and throwing them into a pocket dimension, spitting them back out without their free will. Savathun would question things, yearning to learn more about the final shape, the Traveler, and the universe. And she decides she needs to get out of the universe. Xivu is just killing shit. Like, slay, girl, slay. This is probably around the time that sentient black matter would come together and become the Nine. And the solar system would be created. Our solar system was created. So about 4.6 billion years ago. The Hive gods are not on a scale of thousands or even millions of years. They existed for billions of years. For the Witness, and to a lesser extent Rolk, this may have been tens or hundreds of billions of years old. And in a time span between 4.5 billion to a few million years ago, the Hive had set up shop underneath the lunar surface. They were here the whole time? Wizards were on the moon first? What the fuck? Elsewhere, the Cabal Empire is spreading its reach, conquering planets. Eventually, the elites tried to take control of the government, until Callus, it took his birthright to the throne and abandoned Torobado's military-industrial complex. But not before conquering the Scions and, forcibly allowing them to use their psychic powers to benefit the Cabal Empire. Yeah, Callus had also wished on an Ahamkara bone for something to love forever, and his daughter Keitel was born. The Cabal Emperor would also endorse an albino gladiator named Gaul. Callus planned on freeing the Scions, but Gaul and Keitel would get some help overthrowing the government, and they exile Callus on the Leviathan, a world-eating vessel. Okay, look, I know I made a joke mistaking Callus for Queso earlier, but if we're being honest here, he has more in common with the Leviathan. And by Leviathan, I mean the planet-eating ship, not the sea life of the Fundament. The Leviathan was sent off into uncharted space, to drift off forever, leaving Callus to slowly ossify, turning him to stone, killing him. And as Gaul took the mantle of Emperor, Callus drifted through space until he met the Abyss. He stared into it, and it stared back. This was the deposed Emperor's first encounter with the voice in the dark, the Witness. It promised Callus a front row seat to watch the end of the universe, and in all the opulence he could have dreamed of. And as a result, Callus would regain his will to live. He took control of both his life and his ship, following in the footsteps of the Witness. Callus would meet many civilizations after meeting the Witness, and he would try to impress the Witness to ensure he could watch as the Witness fucks the universe. Oh! So Callus is like Sneeko. Eventually, the Traveler would arrive at a planet called Reese, and here is where a species known as the Elixni would rise. They were this insect or crab-like creature that were highly intelligent and would worship the Traveler, as many had before. Just like all those before the Elixni's rise, there will always be a fall. Humanity had the collapse, but the Elixni had the whirlwind. Others had the forever box. The whirlwind would change the Elixni culture drastically. The houses would rise to power again, and the planet of Reese was destroyed. Some stayed in their home system, while others would follow the Traveler to reclaim it, or enact vengeance against their god. Others had a less fortunate outcome. Chelchis, the Kell of House Stone, would stand and fall, protecting his people from the armies of Oryx, the Taken King. Some notable Elixni who came to Sol, our solar system, from Reese, are Aramis, Varix, and Fickrel. This would spark the creation of the Servitors, artificial machine gods of the now fallen Elixni. They provide the houses with ether, a substance the Elixni need to survive. It's like food and human growth hormone for them. Due to the Elixni's dependence on servitors, they made them in the image of the Traveler. And now that the Elixni had a method for creating ether, they could leave Reese and follow the Traveler, starting the Long Drift. The Long Drift was the time in Elixni history that they followed the Traveler after it abandoned Reese. Many more young Elixni were hatched in this period, with no place to call home other than the cold, metal interior of the Ketches, as they went on the long journey through space. Naturally, being on a ship with limited resources for extended periods of time can make people a little desperate. This is how the fallen pirate culture started. In order to survive, you needed to take everything from everyone. The strong and the cunning would grow fat and more powerful from excess ether they consumed, birthing the new house structure. Kells on the top, receiving the first and largest cut of ether rations. The rations would get smaller and smaller as you got lower in the ranks, with dregs only receiving barely enough to survive, and their lower arms were docked until they earned the right to have all four of their arms. Some notable fallen born during this time are Civix, Rachis, and Mishrax, who all grew up together. Civix and Rachis were brothers who were pushed unto the mother of Mishrax after her ketch was raided by another ketch. So basically, the mother of Civix and Rachis raided a ship to steal their supplies, and then left her kids with the people she just robbed, so her kids could starve. Throughout the long drift, many ketches found tetrahedral structures, the pyramid ships. They would take relics from them, some predating the Witness. As the Elixni followed their great machine through space, it would find a new people to gift, but it missed them by one planet. Well, actually, it visited other planets in our solar system, but we had to meet it halfway on Mars, making first contact with the Traveler. The Traveler terraformed planets and moons all around the solar system. All was well and good, other than, the Vex showing up, but oh well, what are a couple of robots gonna screw up? Asa, the Leviathan, or proto-worm god, anyway, she would arrive in the seas of Titan, and Nezarec would start to haunt humanity. Primarily one family that he just really hated, I guess. Anyways, they were made to chronicle the exploits of the final god of pain in an Eldritch Goofy style book. H.P. Lovecraft style. Anyways, humanity would undergo a golden age. New borderline magical technologies were created. New worlds settled, and the human lifespan tripled. A select few people would be able to hear the Traveler, and Clovis Bray fed his massive ego and his fat wallet by starting Braytech, a totally ethical tech startup focusing on advancing and improving human life, including the creation of a war mind, an AI whose sole purpose of existence is to kill shit. Thankfully, Dr. Anna Bray, Clovis's granddaughter, was the lead on developing Rasputin's cognitive growth. She taught him art, music, and poetry. He would learn to love humanity and the indomitable human spirit. And there were also the Seraphs who protected and oversaw Rasputin to ensure he didn't go rogue or to hop in and use his manual overrides. In other super science news, let's check in on the Ishtar Collective. What are they doing? Oh, they're researching the Vex and discovered that the Vex can simulate multiple realities at once, sending some researchers mad because they have no way of knowing if they were in a simulation. Humans decided the Traveler was taking too long terraforming planets, so they settled the ocean moon of Titan, creating the New Pacifica Research Station where humanity would make its first contact with Asa. Now back to the second cheekiest Bray, my main man Clovis, who is like most of the Golden Age lore, and basically all of it is genuinely important to the Light and Dark saga. Anyways, Clovis learns about the darkness with the K1 anomaly and clarity control. The K1 anomaly was studied, but basically everyone who fucked with it went a bit loopy and a bit goofy, maybe quirky, and dare I say even silly. Anyways, apparently this thing can make the moon collapse in on itself, and they used that research to create better ships for deep space travel, and the Revision Zero in collaboration with Haka. But the big goofy darkness moment for Clovis Bray was discovering clarity control, which clarity control is the Witness whispering sweet nothings in Clovis's ear. It would tell him to get to Europa, build a city, and cram human minds and souls into robot bodies. But this geezer would need a medium to hold human memories, and maybe emotions. And Clovis didn't give a shit about that. He looked towards Vex milk when it's near clarity control. It's just like brain milk, no Vex. The next thing you need in order to make humans basically immortal by shoving them into robot bodies is real humans. This started with Clovis Bray's son, Clovis Bray II, before he had clarity control, so he just, had a dead son and a chatbot that talked like his son. Clovis would take volunteers. By placing people in incredible debt and leaving them no other real options other than to just be his lab rat. That's what happened to Cade. Anyways, Exos had some issues that needed to be solved. One of those being DER, or dissociative exomind rejection. Basically, the human brain didn't like not breathing, not eating, drinking, sleeping, or coming. So Clovis gave them the ability to do all of these things, so the minds didn't delete themselves in horror over their new bodies. Anyways, Clovis would use these exos to do tasks that humans couldn't undertake or use them for extreme violence. They were a great option to guard random shit around the system, whether it was to captain the extrasolar colony ships or build and raise cities that humans would be born from, the frozen embryos aboard the ships, or, politely stopping nosy reporters and whistleblowers around the Eventide colony or the exoscience lab on Mars. Clovis created the next step in human evolution, bringing him closer to becoming humanity's Luca, or lowest universal common ancestor. All exos were his property and invention. Next, he needed to be the man who sent humanity to other systems, then kill the Traveler and rule over everything with his war mind as a god among men. Anyways, Exos also protected Ishtar researchers from the Ahamkara, who have now made Venus their home, and I guess protecting them from Vex too. Two of the more noteworthy researchers were Maya Sandaresh and her wife, Chioma Essie. Ishtar and Braytek would collaborate more in the future. As Braytek invented Siva, extrasolar colonies became much more feasible and frankly, possible. Siva could consume, enhance, and replicate to build constructs and repair damaged infrastructure. These nanomachines were the key to leaving the solar system and building colonies outside of Sol. Now, it is finally time to leave the solar system, with the help of Rasputin's subminds, like Soteria. Braytek and Ishtar created Soteria to search for potential habitable planets for humanity. The Exodus Black was the first to leave. It crash-landed on Nessus, and the crew was killed by the Vex. The AI failsafe would be left stranded on the rock, but Braytek wiped their hands clean of the failed mission and continued on. Rasputin uploaded one of his subminds to an exo body, creating the Siddhartha Golem. So Rasputin could walk among the people and learn from them, and how to best help humanity. As that was happening, another AI was warning humanity of impending doom. The Andromeda Galaxy was completely lifeless. Not because there had never been life there, but because all of the habitable planets and all the life on them was destroyed. Humanity had no place in Andromeda. Soteria would announce this fact and imply that Sol would be in danger. Only Rasputin would listen. Clovis Bray would insist that Soteria was faulty and needed to be sent to the Pillory site and be shattered. As a final desperate act, Soteria would initiate the launch of a colony ship under a test flight protocol. Clovis would have Soteria shattered, and the colony ship, named Exodus Indigo, was sent to Neptune, with Maya Sandaresh and Chioma Essie on board. This marks the moment that the Witness entered the Sol system. The Traveler left Io to hover closely to the Earth's surface. We lost Titan and our moon to the Hive and the forces of the Witness. As opposed to the destruction of Neosis, the Witness took their time in Sol to make those blessed by the Traveler's gift suffer. The moon, Titan, was squeezed into the shape of an egg by the Witness before allowing it to return to its original shape, sending a god wave on the ocean moon. On Earth, the sky burned with fire as centuries of space junk was ignited. Poison gas filled the air as the Witness ripped ass in an attempt to make humanity hate the Traveler. Rasputin would attempt to hold back the forces of the Black Fleet. He would even access colony ships and other civilian ships, commanding them to fight back. This included the Exodus Yellow. Rasputin used it in an attempt to destroy a single pyramid ship. His efforts were in vain, as he was bested and was forced into hibernation. But not before he could trap and freeze Nokris, the heretical son of Oryx, and the worm god Zol under the polar ice caps of Mars. Humanity needed a savior. Rasputin sidelined himself, and the Traveler was in danger. Luckily, Savathun had become intrigued by humanity, and after striking a bargain from a human family, the Hive God of Lies would slay Nezarec, the leader of this assault, and then she would steal the veil, hiding it away on Neptune. The Traveler, as a last resort, pushed the forces of the Witness back, and in its last breath, made the Ghost. But in this final push, a colony ship named the Exodus Green was caught in the asteroid belt. The passengers begged the Witness for mercy, but instead, they were ripped apart by an Eiffel Tower of light and dark energy. A singularity was formed, consuming the ship and its inhabitants. Nezarec's pyramid ship crashed into the lunar surface, and the Exodus Indigo would make its journey to Neptune safely. In order for the Witness to enact the final shape across the universe, it needs to link the Veil and the Traveler. No Veil, no link. So after Savathun hid the Veil on Neptune, the Witness visits the Vex of the Black Garden. The Vex were so perplexed by it, they compute that Warship is the optimal program for encountering the Witness. The Witness orders them to create a new Veil. Ultimately, they failed, but they did make the Black Heart. They would worship the Black Heart. It wouldn't link to the Traveler for the Witness's purposes, but it would poison and weaken the Traveler. This is where I'm going to have to pick and choose the things I dive into more so than before. There's too much info going forward to keep this video in a somewhat reasonable length, like I'm trying. So if I skip a piece of lore that you really like, well, that's why. Hey, the collapse is over, and humanity has fallen. Well, in two ways, actually. The long drift was ending, as the Elixni catches would trickle into Sol to reclaim the Great Machine. This is the start of humanity's Dark Age. Well, most of humanity anyways. This is also when the Neon City of Neomuna was founded on Neptune, near the Veil. A new safe haven for humanity is born, protected by the atmosphere of the gas giant. Although humanity was safe on Neptune, the Exos were creating a new civilization, a new cradle of humanity, exactly as planned. But there was one massive issue. The Exos couldn't survive on Neptune. Well, more accurately, they met a strange interference with the Veil. It made them brain dead. Well, Ingram and Vex Goop dead. So after the bodies started piling up, Maya Sandaresh got all loopy on Veil vibrations and connected all the corpses together like a third grader's potato clock and strapped her still human brain in, also funneling all these minds, these souls, into one body using the powers of the Veil. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Anyways, this mega kills the already brain-dead Exos, and Lakshmi too is created. Bro is actually the Robo-Witness. And to make it worse for the humans on Earth, or anywhere that isn't Neptune, one of the first stops for the Elixni in Sol was the moon. More specifically, Nezarek's pyramid on the moon. The body was cut up into little pieces and spread out amongst the fallen pirate crews. Notably, Mishrax would wear one of the God of Pain's fingers around his neck, a gift from his mother, the captain of a pirate crew. Mishrax would follow in her footsteps, forming an extremely fearsome and powerful crew with Raucous and Civix. Eventually, Mishrax would grow to resent his past actions. Why were they killing humans? Was it because the Great Machine chose them? Also, he would get rid of the relic of Nezarec and would despise the brutality of Raucous and Civix. Eventually, he would leave them for dead in the reef with bounties on their heads. Raucous would have his bounty claimed. The bounty was claimed by a young Elixni with no past and no name other than the Spider. And coincidentally, they looked suspiciously similar. Perhaps because they were the same person. Using the bounty money, Spider would start a crime syndicate and begin collecting human art and starting his new life as a kingpin. Humanity needed to rise up to survive. Well, at least the humans that are still on Earth. That's when Rizalazir was chosen by a ghost, making him the first Risen, the original Lightbearer. Some Lightbearers, like Rizal, would use their new powers to help people, but others would use them to rule over others. Life on Earth would be dominated by the warlords for a long time, ruling over small groups of people, usually tyrannically. Shax was a warlord, but he was pretty chill though. The Veil is a very powerful object, so the people of Neomuna studied it and would use it as a power source, and also a virtual reality type thing called the Cloud Arc. It is kind of basically sort of a separate plane of existence. Then, using Siva and Vextech, the Neomuni made even better nanites, known as Quicksilver, and also, accidentally, the Cloud Striders and their cyber augments were created with these new nanites. Cloud Strider cyberware, instead of causing cyber psychosis like in Cyberpunk, it just shortens your life span to 10 years. Not Neptune years, I'm talking Earth years. Yeah, everything in Destiny is generally told in Earth years. So anyways, the government of Neomuna decides that Cloud Striders could be dangerous. So they implement the rule of 2. 1 master and 1 apprentice. After a while of living under Sith law, some people got a bit angry. So they attempt to overthrow the government and give everyone cyber augments. They failed. The rule of 2 Cloud Striders would continue for the rest of Neomuni history. During humanity's lowest point, they needed a savior. So Rasputin would reawaken to help humanity in its time of need. Unfortunately, the Neomuni kind of had other plans. Well, sort of. So the original plan was for the Cloud Strider Stargazer to drop down on Earth to research Earth's humans, establish communications with Earth, and help humanity return to a golden age under the guidance of Neomuna. One of the first things that Stargazer saw on Earth was how the immortal, light-bearing warlords ruled over people and just kind of sucked as human beings. Also, Earth humans were gross and stinky, so Stargazer did the only logical thing. they went to one of humanity's greatest achievements and the main hope for survival, and further crippled it, severing Rasputin's connection to his subminds across the system and deleting all mentions of Neptune from his records. Oh yeah, and if weakening Earth's mainline defense against extraterrestrial threats wasn't enough, Stargazer also dropped Lakshmi off on Earth, leaving the Robo-Witness with Dark Age humanity. But thankfully, the Iron Lords would come together with the goal of all of humanity banding together. They had an oath to protect the innocent and to never kill a ghost. Of course, not all Iron Lords were fully honorable or honorable at all, and they would break this rule. One of the most prolific ghost killers in the ranks of the Iron Lords was Fellwinter, an exo-warlock who notably didn't remember his name upon resurrection, like most exos, and he has no reset number. Rasputin hated his punk ass, killing him any chance he got, and his loyal ghost, Fellspring, would always bring him back after. Fellwinter had two goals in life: find a safe place to hide from Rasputin, and figure out why he was killing him. The answer to that was Fellwinter was the Siddhartha Golem, and Rasputin was jealous of his creation's new life. Anyways, Fellwinter found a mountain, Fellwinter's Peak, and he became a warlord. Then the Iron Lords talked him into joining them. They had a dental plan. And they used his mountain as a home base. And later on, he would mentor the great warlock Osiris. Before Fellwinter would formally join the Iron Lords, the village of Eton was used as bait by Iron Lord Dryden to attract and kill warlords. Caught in the crossfire was a reluctant Risen named Germain, who loved the people of Eton and wouldn't reveal his light to them, but he would use it to help them here and there. Once the settlement was destroyed, Germain wanted only revenge. He changed his name to Wu Ming and built a bar at the bottom of Fellwinter's Peak. Eventually, the Risen would meet with Fellwinter, revealing his light and asking the Iron Lord for a favor. After hearing rumors of Iron Lord Fellwinter killing ghosts, Wu Ming, he's the Drifter. Calling him the Drifter is just easier to keep track of rather than all the other names. Okay, got that? Okay, cool. Just Drifter, okay. So Fellwinter breaks the Iron Decree, and Drifter needs the liar to do it again. So after telling the Iron Lord the story of Eton's massacre, he requests for Fellwinter to kill Lord Dryden and his ghost. And that he did. And now we enter the Tale of Two Kitties. Wait, I mean two cities. The Tale of Two Cities. Well, actually, not quite yet. Humanity has founded the last city, and the passengers of the Exodus Green have returned. Kinda. Only some of them and some of their descendants have returned. So in the surface level dimension of Destiny, a few centuries have passed, but within the singularity that swallowed the Exodus Green into a pocket dimension, millennia have passed. But now Marasov has heard the distress calls, the bravery, and the heroism across Sol. After a civil war, a group led by Marasov leaves the pocket dimension known as the Distributary. But now they've been awoken. Immediately, they engage in yet another civil war. Some Awoken leave for Earth, but the majority stay in the asteroid belt, now called the Reef, and crown Marasov Queen of the Reef and the Awoken people. And I'd crown her to be my queen. Mara has some short-ish term goals for the Awoken and herself, such as build a city, and a unique culture but also to hold a unequaled power. Sis is rushing giant death robots in Civ 6. Her brother, Uldren Sov, would search for an answer to the Awoken's problems, and he found it. A young Ahamkara named Riven. The young Wish Dragon and Mara would grow to have an odd and unhealthy, kind of toxic relationship. So now Mara ignores giant death robots because now she has a bad dragon. Mara and Riven would work together to create the Dreaming City and invent a culture. The Awoken were building a safe, hidden kingdom, a new home. And after the Queen messed around with yet another singularity, she made the Oracle Engine and dreamt of a conflict between swords and bombs. That sounds like a really one-sided, like just a super easy layup battle for the bomb. Anyways, Mara invents bomb logic. Wait, what the fuck? Okay, basically, bomb logic is a bunch of small components working together for a common goal. And that makes them more powerful than any of the individual parts would ever be. Like a bomb. Now back to the newly founded last safe city on Earth. Powerful Risen would band together to protect humanity under the Traveler. The Iron Lords were able to convince the warlord Shax to shepherd his people to the city. Osiris went to the city, and some Risen would travel far and wide to bring people to the last city. Saint 14 was one of these Risen, and while guiding people on Mercury, he also met his death. Until a special guardian intervened, giving him the perfect paradox and saving his life. An Awoken named Zavala would be Risen. This young Titan had a rough start as a light bearer, and he learned under the Iron Lords until meeting a nurse named Sophia. She wasn't a Risen like Zavala, but they fell in love and adopted a son. Together, after Zavala killed the Fallen that slayed the child's parents, Zavala left the Iron Lords to spend time with his wife and son. Anyways, some Elixni held a grudge, and they killed Zavala's son, and his wife left him, so he went back to the Iron Lords, a changed man. As the city's walls are built by titans like Zavala, a war is fought within. Eventually, humanity decides to form a consensus between civilians and light bearers. The citizens had factions. Dead Orbit, who wished to leave the system. New Monarchy, who wanted, well, a monarchy. And the Concordat, who wanted something, I guess? Anyways, the light bearers, now the Guardians, had the Vanguard, one representative for each class. Saint 14 was the first Titan Vanguard. Osiris was the first Warlock Vanguard. And the second Vanguard Commander. And to cap it all off, Tallulah Fairwind represents the Hunters. Early on in the city, there were existential threats, such as the Battle of Six Fronts, and the Sunbreaker Titans leaving the city. At the Battle of Six Fronts, the city needed to stand its ground against the Fallen. Many Guardians would etch their names in history, none more than the warlock known as Osiris. He would use his signature reflections, copies of himself that he made in solar light. These reflections would fight off the Fallen, protecting the young city. After his accomplishments during this battle, his boyfriend, Saint 14, was appointed the Vanguard commander. But Saint 14 gave the title to Osiris that same day. Saint would go on a solo adventure, a crusade you could say. Well, in reality, he went around killing any Elixni he saw in the absolute most brutal ways possible, under direct orders from the speaker, making the man named Saint a hero to humanity and the most evil monster to the Elixni. The Great Ahamkara hunt begins, and the Vanguard decides that wish magic is too powerful for anyone to be trusted with it. Side note, the Great Hunt may or may not have been at least tangentially, caused by Morozov's wish for a unique and unparalleled power. To grant this wish, Riven initiated the genocide of her own species. Potentially. This has never been confirmed, but is generally kind of accepted. Evidence includes the Awoken granting extremely powerful gear to the city for the hunt, and that gear needed to be returned after the end of the hunt. It left Riven, Morozov's personal wish dragon, as the only known Ahamkara, including by proxy Riven's baby daddy Tyrannus, who granted his own wish to hide and protect their eggs. Doing so killed him and turned him into a Strand bow, even though Strand wasn't known to anyone yet. The Vanguard went through a few Hunter Vanguards, like a concerning amount of them. But the Great Hunt continued, and although Guardians agreed that the Ahamkara were too powerful and dangerous to be left alive, many kept their bones to make armor and weapons. Eris Morn was one of the Guardians who kept the bones of an Ahamkara. And Ahamkara can kind of live through their bones. They can still grant wishes and empower people through their bones and make bargains with them after death through the bones. Anyways, Zur would make his presence and the presence of the Nine known to the city, and the Iron Lords would seek out Siva to help humanity rebuild and enter a new golden age. It went terribly. Rasputin got angry that his son, which he abandoned and abused, made a few friends and wouldn't talk to him. So like any self-proclaimed good father, he reprogrammed Siva to kill his son, Felwinter, and all of his friends. So all but 2 Iron Lords were killed by Rasputin and Siva. Lord Saladin and Lady Aphrodite remained. Although the City Age is distinctly different from the Dark Age, it was still a rough start. There were events like a failed raid on the Vault of Glass. Rizal Azir became Dredge and Yor, and the Hive were now on Earth. People wanted a scapegoat, and the Warlock Vanguard commander Osiris was literally right there. He refused to attend consensus meetings, which I don't think that's a huge issue. He could always get the cliff notes from his husband. He was learning from the speaker and the ways of being a speaker while banging the speaker's son, Saint 14, and refuting the speaker's ideologies. And he was trying to make Ikora the Warlock Vanguard this whole time. He didn't want it. And back to that failed raid on the Vault of Glass, there was a 3-person fire team, Praedyth, Kabir, and Pahanin. Pahanin was the only one to survive, but he was later on killed by Dredge and Yor after he, went crazy. Kabir was corrupted by the Vex and funneled his light into the Aegis. Praedyth was deleted from the timeline. Needless to say, they were not fit for low manning. Another great moment of showing why Osiris, at this point in time, was unfit to lead. The Battle of Burning Lake. Now, don't get me wrong, the Guardians did win, but if you know anything about Osiris, his ego is bigger than my cock. Okay, that's not really a high bar, but you get what I mean. Anyways, the Vanguard under Commander Osiris decided to assault the moon and take it back from the Hive. The Hive that were there before humans even evolved. This could not have gone worse. This is the Great Disaster. An ill attempt at pushing the Hive off of the moon. Crota, the son of Oryx, made himself known by wiping fire teams left and right. A ton of Guardians died on the moon. The Vanguard orders everyone to just ignore the moon. But Eris didn't. She really wanted Crota Zen's world's first title. She descended into the Hellmouth. Eris was accompanied by Ariana III, Moda, Tolan the Shattered, Vel Tarlo, and Omar. Wait. Tolan the what? The Shattered? Why was he called that? Oh, he just became obsessed with the hive and made an abomination in the face of the Traveler called Bad Juju, a pseudo-weapon of sorrow that empowered its user by implementing the sword logic. Anyways, the team would fall one by one until Toland said, and I quote, "Watch this," as he did a live translation of the Death Singers song. I don't think I explained Death Singers yet, but basically imagine if All I Want for Christmas Is You killed anyone who heard it. That would make Mariah Carey a Death Singer. Anyways, Toland is apparently so bad at translating traditional hive hymnals that he didn't die. He became a floating white ball in the Ascendant Plane, achieving immortality. Anyways, Eris Morn was the sole survivor. Well, other than Omar, but he got turned into a bug. He's Bug Omar. Eris had no chance of survival. Her ghost was dead, and she was stranded in the Hellmouth. She took that old Ahamkara bone in her hand, and she wished to get revenge on the hive. She would be blinded, but took the eyes of an acolyte, and she would struggle and survive the moon for years. Okay, I guess it's time to turn that frown upside down with the story of Shin Malfur. Well, super summarized. I have a video going over Shin and his story on the channel that goes way more into detail. So a kid somewhere between infant and toddler, he dies, and he's brought back by a ghost. His parents and ghosts die, and he's raised in Palamon. A hunter named Jaren Ward shows up and kills the corrupt lawman that rules over Palamon. Jaren mentors a young Shin Malfur. Dredgen Yor burns down Palamon. Jaren tracks him down for a duel. Yor one-shots Jaren and spares Jaren's ghost. Jaren's ghost gives Shin the last word, and then he kills Dredgen Yor at Dwindler's Ridge with the very first golden gun. The hunters now have a new power, and is yet to be truly tested. Oh hey, it looks like multiple fallen houses are gathering around the last city. The House of Wolves goes to war with the Awoken of the Reef. Sure, Ido, the lover of Queen Marasov, gets killed during the Reef Wars, and 2 strange coins are left on her body when she's found. So basically, the 9 did it. This is a tense time for the last city. Having massive fallen forces this close for the first time since the Battle of Six Fronts, yeah. And then you have the Consensus who decide to exile Osiris, the hero of the Battle of Six Fronts, from the city just because he was researching the Vex. So Ikora Rey becomes the new Warlock Vanguard. And at some point, Saint 14 steps down from his Vanguard position and Zavala takes over. And now he is the Vanguard commander. Another Hunter Vanguard dies, and Cade's mentor and best friend, Andal Brask, would become the Hunter Vanguard. Osiris leaves the last city and heads to Mercury to study the Infinite Forest. And he's followed closely by the Cult of Osiris. Now that the Vex researching heretic is gone, all is well for the city, right? Well, no! Those fallen houses outside the city weren't just chilling. They would attack. The city, with smaller forces after the great disaster on the moon, and the new leadership shakeup, couldn't hold the Elixni back. During a retreat ordered by Zavala and Lord Saladin, Shaxx got a little toxic. While equipping his pre-nerf mountaintop, he stood his ground, fighting back against the Fallen with a small group of other Guardians who also disobeyed Vanguard orders, including Ana Bray, a hunter whose light was powerful enough to cast golden guns whose impact left puddles of solar light still present to this day. Ana would fake her death, and the Fallen were pushed out of the city. The battle wasn't truly over yet. The Battle of Twilight Gap finally ended as Saint 14 headbutted a butt-headed Kel to death, denting his helmet forever. The city was safe once more, and Saint 14 would enter the Infinite Forest in search of his phoenix. Ana Bray went to Mars to study Rasputin undisturbed. The Reef Wars ended with the House of Wolves serving under Mara Sov. With the last city in a weakened state, Lysander and the Concordat attempted a coup, and they fail at Bannerfall. The faction was exiled by the consensus, and the future war cult, led by Lakshmi II, that's great, would take the Concordat's place. Shin adopts a false identity and starts a cult called the Shadows of Yore, a group of guardians that use the light and dark to protect humanity. The most important members to us in the context right now are Callum Soul, otherwise known as Dredgen Cole, Tebben Gray, a co-founder of the Shadows of Yore known as Dredgen Bane, the Drifter, now going by Dredgen Hope, Shin Malphur going by Zyre Orsa, and Dredgen Vale. Basically, Shin Malphur would track down and eliminate anyone who went too far in studying the darkness and was corrupted by Sorrow's Road. The Shadows of Yore would study hive magics and the dark, creating a new Book of Sorrow and new replicas of Thorn. Shortly before the resurrection of our player Guardian, Cade becomes the new Hunter Vanguard, after his best friend was killed by Tannix. Saint 14 was visited by our character in the Infinite Forest due to the sundial time travel stuff. The Cabal are on Mars. I have no general idea when that one happened, other than before the player Guardian's resurrection. So now that we, the Guardian, have talked to Saint twice, we can finally be resurrected. And also the Hive are now finally back on Earth. But a new hero is risen in an abandoned cosmodrome in old Russia. This is your Guardian. As long as you're a veteran player since before Shadowkeep, the Guardian grabs Kvasov and fights back the Fallen. You grab a jump ship, and you reboot Rasputin's Warmind network. And promptly after Rasputin is reconnected to the network, he immediately bombs the absolute shit out of the Cabal and the Vex on Mars to test his strength. The Prime Servitor for the House of Devils, Sepix Prime, is killed by the Guardian in the Cosmodrome. After discovering a Hive Wizard on Earth, the moon is back on the menu, boys. So let's check it out. Oh shit. Did we just unseal the Hellmouth? Yeah. Yes, we did. So some exo stranger contacts you as you are robbing a Hive library, attempting to destroy the Sword of Crota. This exo stranger, she tells you to go to Venus. But first you still need to destroy a shrine of Oryx. And then you get to go to Venus. The exo stranger tells you about the Black Garden and the Black Heart. The Awoken are, for some reason, the only ones who know how to make a key to the portal. So Aldrin Sov tells you to kill a Gate Lord and bring him its eye. He, of course, doesn't believe you could do this because it's a Vex Gate Lord and they're extremely powerful. But the Guardian does do that. They kill the Gate Lord, along with basically wiping out the fallen House of Winter at the same time, and turning the Ishtar Collective's archives back on. As you start a war with the Cabal on Mars, the new Cloud Strider Rohan ventures into the Black Garden to study the Veil and the Black Heart. Shortly after he leaves, you charge in and destroy the Black Heart. With the destruction of it, the Traveler can begin to heal, and it slowly does. The speaker asks you to gather 5 friends to raid the Vault of Glass and destroy Atheon to stop the Vex from manipulating time throughout the Sol system. using Kabir's leftover light, you take control of the timeline and create your own fate. Isn't it crazy how 6 people can beat a raid pretty easily? Well, I guess 7 if you count Kabir in this attempt. Now with the Black Heart gone, the Vanguard sends hidden agents into the Black Garden to study this strange place. One of these groups was the Kentarch 3. These Guardians discovered the Divinity, an object of worship for the Vex. They were granted powers of darkness, and one member, Lisbon 13, would turn on his fire team, including the person he was banging, and killed both of his fire team members. The witness offered to erase Lisbon 13's memories, and he took the offer. The bodies of his murdered fire team were never found. As Eris Morn finally crawls out of the hellmouth of the moon, it becomes apparent that Crota, the son of Oryx, is coming back to take the Earth. Crota's wife tries to hack Rasputin, so now you need to kill her. You hear that Crota's soul is in a big crystal on the moon, so you go Deep Rock Galactic on his ass. Rock and stone! Anyways, now you just do the raid, Crota's End, to once and for all kill Crota, the son of Oryx. Which it's not clear what the canon version of that is. It could be the launch version, could be the Age of Triumph version, could be the new version in Destiny 2. We really don't know what the canon Crota fight is. But yeah, after you do the Crota's End raid, Eris Morn sends a signal alerting Oryx to the fact that his son was killed by the Guardian using his own sword and a shitty Ethernet cable. The Guardian encounters the Undying Mind for the first time, and the 9 release Skolas in the Reef, claiming to be the Kell of House Wolves. Hell, his ego grew, and he's calling himself the Kell of Kells. He goes around uniting the fallen houses and hires Taniks to do stuff for him. So you gotta kill both of them. The House of Wolves tried to take the Vault of Glass, and you have to stop them and capture Skolas. The Wolf Kell warns of incoming darkness, and then you kill him in the Prison of Elders. Oh, and now Oryx is on the way. Mara Sov works to build a throne world for herself, and she meets with Eris Morn and Osiris to make a plan to kill Oryx, the Taken King. When the big boy shows up, he weaponizes his throne world to kill the Awoken fleet. Marasov dies, but Shirochi and the Techians use gateways and ley lines to return her to the Dreaming City. But Oryx followed, and he takes Riven of 1,000 Voices, the last Ahamkara that we know of. And then he uses the Wish Dragon to invade Mara's throne world to wreck shit and then leave it in ruin. Petrovenge has now been put in charge of Awoken affairs for the time being, and Uldren is missing. The Cabal on Mars's moon Phobos sent out a distress signal. The Guardian responds and learns of the Taken and Oryx. The Cabal Empire sends the Skyburners to fuck with Oryx's Dreadnought, and then Cade and Eris get to head the assault on the Dreadnought. Cade lends you a stealth drive, and he borrows Eris's ship. You shut down the Dreadnought's main weapon and establish a beachhead after, you destroy Eris's ship. And in order to enter the Ascendant realm of Oryx and, get to throw hands with him, the Guardian needs to become an Ascendant hive. But instead of using worm gods and the sword logic, you help out Rasputin and get a new stealth drive. And then you get to roll around in Crota's stink and soak in his miasma of gamer gunk, which you do at his funeral. You go to his funeral, roll in his gunk so you could go kill his dad. Anyways, you enter Oryx's throne world masquerading as his son, and Oryx is slain once and for all. Kinda. Actually, he infuses himself with taken energy, and you go back again with 5 more people to finish him off. Not only does this team fight Oryx, but also his war priest and an ogre that has been munching on corrupted light. Oh, and I guess the daughters of Oryx were killed by the Guardians too. But when the Guardian notices bombs made of corrupted light, they know exactly what to do. In an epic Reddit debate, we see Oryx taking the side of the sword logic, and the Guardians took the side of Mara's bomb logic, even though it was 6 Guardians versus the many smaller components of Oryx's forces. But yeah, anyways, the Guardians point out the Taken King's hypocrisy, and worse, spelling mistake, killing him, leaving his corpse to fall into Saturn. But as he drifts into Saturn, he isn't fully dead. Also, you turn him into a gun with the instructions he gave you explaining how to turn him into gun. So, that's the idea of... So, the Touch of Malice, that was the idea of Oryx. And the idea of Oryx would be unending. And even in death, he would be an instrument of the sword logic. But notably, Toland is angry that nobody took Oryx's throne. In addition to turning Oryx the Taken King into a gun, we decided to do some goofy shit like that again. So with the help of Eris Morn and Lord Shaxx, the Guardian uses a shard of Oryx's sword and some hadium flakes, which are like these paracausal alloys that, absorb energy. Anyways, we use these to forge new swords. After slaying Ekthar, the Sword of Oryx, we unlock the power of these blades. We used the weapon Oryx held in hand as he ended civilizations in the name of the sword logic and in opposition of the Traveler. We use that, and we see new swords born in the light. Boltcaster, Dark Drinker, and the Raze Lighter. As the Taken War wages on and you fight off the Taken threat across the system, Mara Sov steals Oryx's power and expands her throne world, allowing her to come back to life. But although Mommy Mara swiped Oryx's throne world, nobody actually sat on his throne, and Toland, again, was unhappy with that. According to the sword logic, we should have become the King of the Hive and the Taken. Mara also could have taken Oryx's spot, but she didn't. Nobody did. Some would try, but we put a stop to them. Like Alakul the Darkblade, who was imprisoned by Oryx for being a genuine rival to the God King. And Malak, the Pride of Oryx, was another one. Malak is not Oryx's son, he is actually the son of Savathun, making him Oryx's nephew, but Oryx would end up taking him, and he liked him more than his actual sons. Anyways, Varix wants Malak to be studied in the Prison of Elders, and Eris Morn just tells you to kill his ass. So, you kill him. Funnily enough, both of these Taken King wannabes dropped unique helmets when defeated, so Titans could wear the face of Alakul, and Hunters could cosplay as Malak. The awoken Techians would cram Taken energy into armor and weapons in an attempt to make more powerful gear. But this gear kind of whispered to the user, yeah, I bet nothing could go wrong with that, right? Savathun would take claim over the Taken Ahamkara Riven. And elsewhere, a group of exiled, scorned Elixni would band together to create a new house for themselves. These Elixni are Fikrul, Alikris, Pirha, Hyrax, Canix, Rexus Von, Araxes, and Yavix. They aren't Scorn yet, that comes later, and they really aren't Barons yet, but they are the Scorn Barons. Anyways, the Drifter would also, in this time, leave the solar system to find a frozen world with creatures that suppress the light. This is when Rise of Iron takes place. House of Devils gets into Siva. Lord Saladin asks us to help. We do, with the assistance of Shiro 4, because the Vanguard doesn't think this is important enough. And we shut down the Siva replication chambers in Rasputin's bunkers, kill Devil Splicers, Archons, and Priests. And then the Guardian becomes the newest Iron Lord, one of 3. Shiro 4 crafts the Outbreak Prime, the last Siva replicator known to humanity, and the Guardian forges a new G-Horn, not only to remember those who fell at Twilight Gap, like the original G-Horn, but now to remember the dead Iron Lords. That's basically all of the at least somewhat important stuff in Rise of Iron. Like, there's a little bit more, but yeah. The House of Devils was basically the last house with any real power, and they suffered a massive blow at this time. The House of the Scorn was tiny and weaker than all the other houses, so many Fallen just joined under one banner. This is when the House of Dusk is born, and they don't even dock arms. They also don't really have a very centralized leadership. They're actually just fighting for their lives. They are just out here trying to survive. The speaker would announce the dawn of a new age for humanity. The age of triumph. To remember our victories in the Vault of Glass. Killing Atheon, slaying Crota, ending the Taken King and the Taken Threat. And stopping the Siva crisis too, I guess, but that one wasn't important. During the Taken War, 2 Cabal brothers, the Shield brothers, would send out a distress signal from the Dreadnought contacting the Cabal Empire. And Gaul would learn of the Guardians and the Traveler and the Traveler's Light and all this other stuff. So Gaul and the Red Legion would set sail and go over to the Traveler and the Soul System. While this is happening, Callus would send his shadows to kill Gaul. Oh yeah, I haven't really explained Callus's shadows. Anyways, he picks like one representative of each species he encounters and he puts them in a special forces type thing. And he puts them in charge of armies, you know, kind of like the Witness's disciples. And he had a bunch of them from around the universe after he spoke to the Abyss, otherwise known as a voice in the dark. It's the Witness, if you're like that. Anyways, the Shadows were killed by Gaul and the Red Legion, and they would continue on their path to the last city. This marks the start of the Red War. Bungie needed an excuse to reset our loot, our abilities, and our levels. So they blew up the vault during a Guardian celebration, and the Cabal launched a surprise attack on the city. The Red Legion threw a light suppressing net over the Traveler. Guardians have no light now, and they scatter across the system in fear. People from the European Dead Zone run rescue missions to the last city to help get refugees to some sort of safety. One of the refugees saved by Hawthorne and her team is the Guardian. Zavala rallies other stray Guardians on Titan to plan a counteroffensive to retake the city, while Cade travels to Nessus to steal some Vex tech to assassinate Gaul with, and Ikora travels to Io to study the last place the Traveler touched before the collapse. And Gaul kidnapped the Speaker. The Guardian is given a vision by the Traveler, and regains the light through a shard of the Traveler. Now, the Guardian gathers the Vanguard from across the system to form a plan and to unite the Guardians to retake the city. After talking to Zavala on Titan, he returns to Earth as the Guardian, with the assistance of the Exodus Black's AI failsafe, they save Cade, who is stuck in the Vex network of Nessus. And after speaking to Ikora about gathering the Vanguard together, she agrees, and now with a reunited Vanguard, a plan can be formed. The first step was to shut down the Almighty, a system-destroying superweapon that eats stars. After that's shut down, it's time to take the city back. As the Guardian rounds up the vanguard, Gaul interrogates the speaker. All Gaul wants is the gifts of the traveler. So he asks the speaker what made humanity worthy. So the speaker proceeds to drop the hardest line of the franchise. For a fatter dong, you have to subscribe to Spycer, and also like and comment on this video. Well, he did say that, but the more important thing he said for the lore here is devotion inspires bravery. Bravery inspires sacrifice. And sacrifice leads to death. So feel free to... I'm not going to say it on YouTube, you know. Feel free to... yourself. Gaul kills the speaker and forcibly infuses himself with the Traveler's Light, and the Guardian has to beat Gaul in a fight. And the Cabal's leader pleads to the Traveler, and he obtains godhood, to then wake the Traveler up and it disintegrates him. In doing so, the Witness and the Black Fleet are alerted to the Traveler's reawakening. But here's a cool side note about Gaul dying, specifically in that way. It's a nod to the myth of Icarus, the kid that flew too close to the sun, and his wings melting, and his hubris and ambition led to his fall. Well, the Cabal don't have the story of Icarus. They have the legend of Acreus, a Cabal who dreamed of grabbing the sun in his hand, and he did with no repercussions. Ambition and hubris were celebrated by the Cabal, which was Gaul's folly. After the death of Gaul and kind of like the end to the Red War, we, go around the system doing a little cleanup. The Guardian spares a Dusk captain on Titan that would then start a new house that welcomed open-minded Elixni who wished to live under the Traveler's Light alongside humanity. This house would be named the House of Light. In addition to that, we examined the Taken and how they seem to be focused in areas of significance for the Traveler's activity, like the Shard in the EDZ and IO. Oryx is gone. The Taken War is over, and now Savathun controls the Taken using Quria. In the EDZ and on IO, Taken can be observed eating the light, and generally not doing all that much else. And apparently the former Cabal Emperor Callus is now looming over Nessus, and wishes to speak to us. He would put the Guardians through challenges for opulent prizes, and to see which light bearers would be good shadows, while also kinda opening our eyes to the idea that there is a voice in the dark, like a separate being from the darkness. Oh yeah, and the Nine are talking more directly to Guardians in the city than ever before. They reveal more about themselves, like how they crave having real bodies, and that one of the ways they try to accomplish this is the solar system, the Nine, hijacked an awoken woman's body to talk to us. And they get to host a worse version of the Trials of Osiris. Speaking of the Trials of Osiris, Osiris the Warlock is stuck in the Infinite Force after seeing a dark timeline, and his ghost is in a coma. So the Guardian and Ikora have to bring Osiris's ghost, Sagira, back. And then the Guardian and Sagira takes over the ghost shell. Guardian and Sagira have to go back in time through the Infinite Forest and track down the birth of Panoptes, a Vex mind that endangers the whole system. You help Osiris kill Panoptes, give him back Sagira, stop the Red Legion's new efforts of redoing the Red War through time travel, and then you try to find Saint 14 in the Infinite Forest, but you just find his body. and you learn that the Vex made him a grave, like a ceremonial grave. They put respect on Saint's name. Callus calls upon Guardians again to kill a Vex mind that the Leviathan ate up. Needless to say, the Leviathan is lactose intolerant, and Vex milk made the tummy hurt. As the Emperor gains more trust of the Guardian, the Red Legion is still spiraling, and still, importantly, hates Callus. But they have no leader. That is until Val-Kalor takes up the mantle. And just for reference, the rank of Val isn't really that high at all. They serve Valuses, and Valuses serve under like a Dominus, and it keeps going up from there. Vals don't have much power. Remember when the runt worm god Zol and Oryx's disowned son went to Mars and were frozen by Rasputin? Well, they were left out to thaw, and they want revenge on the Warmind. So Nokris and his brood of fellow exiles would further study Hive necromancy magic and empower Zol through the pact he made with Nokris. Anyways, we hate Hive necromancers just as much as the rest of the Hive do. So we kill Nokris and build trust with Rasputin to get help killing Zol in a strike. Zol could have been a raid boss, but no, instead we had to return to the Leviathan again to fight Val-Kalor, a relatively low-ranking Cabal that decided he has the longest schlong in the Red Legion. Callus uses his robots to help the Guardian put an end to Val-Kalor and the Red Legion that are trying to siege the Leviathan. And if Val-Kalor and his fumble weren't large enough of a blow for the Red Legion, some of the Scions are potentially seeking to rebel against the Cabal Empire. Again. Hold up, wait a minute. That was still not the end of Nokris or Zol. You see, Nokris is an Ascendant Hive. He has a throne world. He's extremely powerful, and also, very importantly, Nokris is a necromancer. And also, what happens to Zol? Zol would whisper to us after we killed him, telling us to go to I.O. You follow his instructions, and you complete the Whisper mission to gain the Whisper of the Worm. It is Zol. Zol is the worm. Zol turned himself into a gun. Similarly to Oryx, he would have power eternally as the Guardian practices the sword logic by simply wielding them. With the freedom Cade found after the Red War, he would help Petrovenge in the Reef with just odd jobs. One of those was hunting down the scorned barons and placing them in the Prison of Elders. Except for one, Fikrul. Uldren Sov would weep over the corpse of the recently golden gunned Fikrul and wish for the Elixir to not die. Riven of 1,000 Voices answered, creating the Dark Ether, and breathed it into Fikrul, bringing Elixir back to life, but twisting him into something else. Scorn. Well, he was scorned before, but now he was the first Scorn, like undead Elixir, infused with the Dark Ether and hatred. Uldren and Fikrul would kill the Kell of the House of Kings, making Uldren the Kell of House Dusk. So pretty much all of the Fallen in Soul. Many of the kings were converted into Scorn by the Dark Ether, and soon after, Uldren and Fikrul would turn themselves in, give themselves up to the Awoken, and be imprisoned in the Prison of Elders. And before we kill Cade, let's talk about the Drifter. On that frozen world, in order to survive, the Drifter kills his crew members and upgrades his ghosts using parts of other ghosts, allowing his to use new spectrums of the light. Drifter now has his light and is able to leave the planet alive. And upon returning to the Sol system, the Nine took a special interest in the Drifter, giving him the Haul, a huge testicle that he drags behind his ship, the Derelict. He would meet up with some noteworthy guardians as he returned to the solar system. He helped Osiris finish the sundial, a time travel device on Mercury that works with the infinite forests to pull things back. Osiris plans to use it to get some good dick. Shin Malphur talks to the Drifter about ways to lure out guardians who are easily tempted by the darkness, so that Shin could kill them. So they made Gambit. Meanwhile, back in the Prison of Elders, Varix would study the Dark Ether, and he tried to cure Aldrin and Fikrul with no luck. So he did the only rational thing in this situation. He jumped on a ship, released all the prisoners, and called himself the Kell of Kells. Because Varix quit his job without turning in his 2 weeks' notice, the Awoken couldn't find anyone to cover his shift, so a riot broke out. Well, actually, it was a prison break. Petra calls Cade in to help, and he drags the Guardian along with him. This is where Cade met his fate, and he fucking died. Dude got his shit rocked, and his best friends refused to avenge him. So it was up to the Guardian and Petra Venge with the assistance of the Spider. The Guardian cuts down each Scorn Baron one by one as they track down Aldrin to avenge Cade's death. The journey takes them through the Tangled Shore and into the Dreaming City, making them the first Guardian to ever enter the Awoken City. Petra and the Guardian fight through the Dreaming City to find Aldrin, seduced by a vision of his sister. Hold on, pause, what? Yeah, I don't want to get into all that. It's nothing. It was created through a chimera, a taken chimera, controlled by Riven. Anyways, the Guardian and or Petra and kill Aldrin. It's kind of left vague on purpose who dealt the killing blow, so you get to decide. Now that Cade has been avenged, the Guardian inherits Cade's gun, the Ace of Spades. And now Petra calls the Guardian to help cure the Techians of Taken Energy and kill Riven of 1,000 Voices. Riven, the last of the Ahamkara, is now gone. And in her last act, she bestows a curse upon the Dreaming City, setting the city in a 3-week time loop. Petra contacts Mara in her throne world, and you help to find a cure for the city, but with no avail. The Dreaming City will forever suffer this time loop set upon it by Riven and Savathun. Speaking of the Hive God of Cunning, she made one of her daughters go to Mara's throne world. This is Dulangaru. She would live in Mara's shattered throne, dying every 3 weeks to the Guardian just to come back to life, over and over again, as a way for Savathun to become more powerful. And speaking of goofballs that can't stay dead, there's Fikrul, and he is holding a grudge against the Guardian for killing all of the Scorn Barons and Aldrin Sov, but also, you know, like a massive amount of Scorn. You need to go to Fikrul's lair over and over again to kill him again and again. But Fikrul isn't the only goofball to worry about in the Tangled Shore. The Warden Servitor of the Prison of Elders has gone rogue, and the Spider is hired to take care of it. So the Spider hires the Drifter to take care of it, and the Drifter hires the Guardian to take care of it. Then, to repay the debts the Guardian owes to the Spider, they venture into a Hive tomb ship in the Tangled Shore to kill the Mindbender's wife and stop the ether-infused Hive. After killing the Broodmother and her twin sister, your debt with the Spider is paid. After you can access the Dreaming City and you avenge Cade, the Drifter offers you a gun, the Malfeasance. You need to investigate the death of Callum Sol, who was gunned down by Shin Malphur. This was all planned by Shin, Callum, and the Drifter, so Shin could help the Guardian who avenged Cade 6 walk down the fine line between light and dark without being corrupted by the darkness. The Guardian would find the Black Armory and help them recover and restore old forges, along with stopping Civics from stealing tech and preventing Civics and the Kel Scourge crime syndicate from destroying the last city. Marasov has a vision that her brother was revived by a ghost and was now arisen. She would leave her throne world to talk to Eris. The two traveled the solar system, preparing for the return of the Witness and the Black Fleet. Aldrin Sov is risen, and now known as the Crow. His life sucks. Basically, he walks around the Tangled Shore with amnesia, trying to do good things. The Scorn call him Daddy, and Guardians, for the most part, shoot him on sight. Nobody calls him Aldrin for some reason, so he has no idea that he is Aldrin Sov. Shin Malphur hosts another study session with the Guardian to stop the Hive from making other weapons of sorrow. And Shin lets the Guardian borrow the last word. After beating a Hive weaponsmith in multiple quick draws, Shin is super impressed, so impressed in fact that he gives you the original last word. Funnily enough, it is somehow worse than the replica that we use in Destiny 1. The Hidden and the Praxic Warlocks have an open investigation if the Drifter had any part in Cade 6's death. All they could come up with is a resounding, I don't know. The Nine talk to the Guardian and give small hints of the coming battle. Shin Malphur schedules a new study date with the Guardian where he helps them craft their very own Thorn replica. And Shin confesses. He tells the Guardian everything. From starting with the Shadows of Yore to 360 no-scope and Callum Sol for rage bait on Twitter. All of it is revealed. Remember the old tower from Destiny 1? Well, the devils do. Especially Aramis, the ship stealer. Mithrax finds out their plans, so he tells the Guardian to sort it out. So you're now dragged to the destroyed tower to fight the House of Devils. Why are they here? Well, back when the Red Legion attacked the tower, the vaults were destroyed. Rationally speaking, all the stuff in them was destroyed too, right? Will anyone check? No? Well, what the fuck? Why has nobody checked? There are hive gods in weapons there. Anyways, the Outbreak Prime was in the vault. And is one of the only sources of Siva in the entire system. So the devils wanted that power back. Now we need to stop the forces of Aramis from retaking an incredible power after you retrieve the Outbreak Prime, which has now perfected itself. And after that, she fails her mission, and she had visions and heard whispers. So Aramis travels to the moon. Former Emperor Callus received a gift from Savathun, the Crown of Sorrow. This crown has some kind of mind control type powers, so Callus births a new cabal from a vat. This child, Gowron, was made by Callus to resist the powers of the crown. Gowron was supposed to be the shadow of the Hive. Savathun still took control of Gowron when the helmet touched his head immediately. And then a Hive infestation struck the Leviathan. Callus needs somebody to clean up his ship, so he calls his favorite janitor, the Guardian. They kill Gowron and farm loot in the menagerie. And as a reward, and as a bribe to convince you to become a shadow of Callus, he gives you the Tribute Hall. A room to hold trophies and shoot holograms. Oh yeah, there was also an interdimensional portal in the Tribute Hall that leads to the Ascendant Plane, where Toland helps you retrieve the bad juju. You know what? I wonder who has the Crown of Sorrow now. I mean, Eris and Ikora's hidden agents would love to have it so they could study it, right? Wait, we left it with Callus? Well, what could go wrong with that, right? While Toland helps you find his old pseudo-weapon of sorrow, Shin Malphur is trying something new. He tells you the location of Dredgen Yor's original thorn, the rose. You purify it in the light, bringing the rose back into existence to then infuse it with even more light to create the Lumina, the first of its kind, the first weapon of hope. Well, it's the first weapon of hope if you don't count the 3 exotic swords from the Taken King, which that's admittedly pretty different, but like it's kind of similar. Anyways, Shin says his time is over. He's too old for this shit. And new lights need a mentor to lead them in learning how to use the light and the dark without being corrupted. So now we specifically have that responsibility. Savathun's brood erects a red tower. Scarlet Keep. Anyways, after Girls' Night with Marasov, Eris Morn goes to it and warns the vanguard of a dark power on the moon. Then she actually, goes into the moon and finds a pyramid. So naturally, Eris touches it. The massive, powerful structure. It comes to life, spreading its children all over the moon, creating the nightmares. And now, the moon's haunted. Okay, so nightmares are traumatic memories manifested as, tangible beings. The daughters of Crota try to use the power of the pyramid and the nightmares to secure the moon and potentially attack Earth. The Guardian, of course, shuts that shit down. And the Vex of the Soul Divisive say, hey look, one of the witnesses' ships. I'ma cop that. This is probably the first time the Vex were on Earth's moon. The pyramid, the witness talks to you with a vision of yourself, claiming to be your salvation. Also, the witness would give humanity the Unveiling lore book to try to convert Guardians. It didn't really work. The Hive of the Moon are still kind of struggling after the death of Crota. They have Savathun now, but it just isn't the same. They find a knight that might be crazy enough to take the place of Crota, until the Guardian kills him and shoves Eris's friend Omar into a gun. The Guardian would return to the Black Garden, and now, on a rampage, beat the Soul Divisive in the Garden of Salvation while tying ropes to yourself and your team, while getting spit on by the Vex. And then you end it off in a giant lake of white liquid. This is all to slow down the witnesses planned and destroy the Vex in the Black Garden under orders from Ikora. At the same time, she builds a massive Vex portal in the tower to draw out the Undying Mind, so it can be killed off in every timeline. And that happens. Osiris wasn't a huge fan of the senseless timeline manipulation like this. So when the Red Legion Scion started playing around with Osiris's old sundial, he got upset. So he picks the Guardian to, stop the Scions and repair the timeline to prevent the solar system from being ripped apart on a subatomic level. At least the Drifter told Osiris that he theorized that would be a possibility of something that happened. But anyways, you're fixing the timeline. But Osiris has one request for you. He needs you to bring Saint 14 back. They have some unfinished business to attend to. Anyways, you repair the timeline and kill the Scion Flayers behind the plan. Saint has returned to the city, and the Guardian ventured into the corridors of time to eventually, after a week, find their own grave. Anyways, the lighthouse needs to be rebuilt, and you can help. With the power of economics and gaming the stock market, the lighthouse is rebuilt. Now Saint 14 hosts a worse version of Trials of Osiris, and a ton of different timelines are now tethered to our own. Oops. Oh, and the Guardian is canonically married to Shax now. Elsie Bray becomes the first being outside of Neptune to see a puka. Pukas are fish-like, psychic, empathetic creatures that help people relive moments to help them through the trauma. This allows Elsie Bray to remember the events of the Dark Futures lorebook and make a new plan to move forward. As the final stand between the Traveler and the Witness looms, Osiris calls Rasputin's bluff, asking him which side he's on. Luckily, Rasputin can actively prove that he is a protector of humanity when those pesky Red Legion scions are back on their bullshit. Now, they're gonna try to throw the Almighty into the earth, more specifically into the Last City. But Rasputin needs new Seraphs to help empower him to deal with this existential threat. So after the Guardian performs monotonous maintenance on the old ballet-loving computer, it tells the Guardian a story. Rasputin reveals that he killed the Iron Lords on purpose, just because his son wouldn't talk to him. He feels nothing but regret and remorse for his actions. He was a tyrant king who struck down his son for helping the common people, the main thing that was asked of him. Rasputin shows you the memorial he gave to his son on the moon, and he gives you Fellwinter's favorite gun. Rasputin also told Osiris to fuck off and start a farm, showing him a seed of silver wings in the Kuiper Belt. There's no light here, but there is seed. Mara tells Osiris to spread seed all over Io, growing a tree of silver wings. Meanwhile, on Europa, Aramis has founded the House of Salvation, and she has begun construction on Reese Reborn, after the Whispers told her to do it. Rasputin slowly destroys the Almighty shortly before the Black Fleet shows up. Rasputin reflexively tries to snipe a pyramid, but gets absolutely bodied. The Neomuni just hop into some pods and live in the Cloud Ark. Well, some refuse, and they were either forced into the Cloud Ark or they got taken care of. Aramis and Elsie Bray both claim the dark powers of stasis on Europa. Pyramids dominate the skyboxes of Io, Titan, Mars, and Mercury. Savathun is preventing us from communicating with the pyramids, so the Witness is mad, and the Drifter finds a way to communicate with the Dark. As you make progress in contacting the Dark, Eris and the Drifter get to know each other better. One of them pops the question, is the darkness bad? Then the Nine answer with, nah, not really. Zavala orders all Guardians to return to the Last City, so the Guardian helps the planetary vendors before the pyramids can take the planets. Sloane gets some power armor and shows the pyramid her hands. Anna Bray shoves Rasputin into an engram. Asher Mir drops a Vex Lake on his head to keep the Taken out of the Pyramidion. And Brother Vance goes into the Infinite Forest to untether billions of timelines from ours. Although we're supposed to be retreating to the Last City, we still got out to talk to the Witness. It is revealed after killing Nokris in the Ascendant Plane that we're destined to go to Europa to use an ancient power. The pyramids would make multiple planets vanish. Mars, Io, Titan, and Mercury are gone. But the Traveler releases energy to slow the forces of the Witness. Although Titan is gone, Sloane is still alive, and she is fighting for her life when Asa saves her. Asa forms a bond with Sloane, and they fight together and help each other stay alive. If you are a newer player of the Destiny franchise, this is probably when your Guardian was resurrected, or around Shadowkeep, at least canonically. Basically, a Guardian rises in the Cosmodrome, grabs Kvostov, finds a jump ship, and then meets Shahan, a hunter whose fire team was wiped by a knockoff Omnigul, which would not have happened if they had subscribed to Spycer, liked this video, commented on this video, and shared it to their friends. Anyways, this Guardian kills Navoda and tests their new powers. Anyways, back to the normal timeline stuff now that you've subscribed. Before we get new and cool stasis powers, Savathun and Xivu Arath go on a demon time. They tag team Torabottle. Savathun gets to trick the newly crowned Empress Keitel into killing her best friend, opening a portal, allowing Xivu Arath to drag in her... And I have to do this every time I have to say this because it's so fucking, hard. Xivu Arath drags in the War Moons, reducing the Cabal homeworld to ash. Then the two Hive God sisters get into a squabble on the moon. Osiris walked in on this, and Sagira gets bodied. Osiris is now lightless, and Savathun saves his life. Kinda. She wears him like a meat suit. Oh, and Callus also appears to be on demon time, as he's mad at the Witness for ghosting him. So he scoops up some scorn from the Tangled Shore and straps them to the Crown of Sorrow to force the Witness to talk to him. It works, and the Leviathan is gone. Anyways, Varix went to Europa with Aramis, but he has some second thoughts, so he sends out a distress signal calling for help on Europa. So instead of traveling to Europa to stop Aramis, you go there to beat Varix's ass for abandoning the Prison of Elders, which led to Cade's death. Until you realize that Aramis and House Salvation are using the powers of darkness. So you and the Reef agree to spare Varix for now. With the help of Elsie Bray, the Drifter, and Eris Morn, you learn how to wield stasis, but only for short durations at a time, and when you're near a splinter of a pyramid. Aramis just crammed that shit into a gauntlet, and that's how she uses it. Anyways, you need to stop her, especially when she tries to open a Vex portal that would more than likely destroy Reese Reborn, and maybe the system, even though you're doing pretty good work protecting Europa and by extension the solar system. Zavala stops by just to say, "Hey guys, cut it out. The darkness is bad. Stasis evil. Please don't use it, Guardian." You obviously don't listen. Then you continue to hunt down Aramis, who freezes you and your ghost on sight. You hear whispers in the darkness and shatter the ice. Instead of using a shard to control stasis, you claim the power of stasis, and now you can just use it. You can just use stasis now. You freeze Aramis in your stasis crystals, and the Witness keeps them alive, trapped. The Fallen make 2 Exos. Varix is granted diplomatic immunity until House Salvation is no more, so probably soon as of this video. And the Vanguard have officially banned the use of stasis and the darkness. The enforcement is basically a finger wag and saying, "Nuh-uh, you can't do that." And nothing other than that. As you go to the moon to help Osiris, someone else is there to help. Uldren Sov? Well, actually, he's the Crow, a light bearer who in their previous life was Uldren Sov. But he does not remember any of that. Anyways, he is now an associate of the Spider. In other words, the Spider put a bomb in Glint, Crow's ghost. Also at one point known as pulled pork. Oh yeah, so if he strays again, he can be quickly dealt with. Anyways, the spider hires you to deal with Xivu Arath's Wrathborn invasion, which is controlling the minds of the Hive, Fallen, and apparently Cabal too. We have never seen Wrathborn Cabal, I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But I don't think we've ever really seen it. Maybe some War Beast. Anyways, with the help of the Crow, you clear out the Wrathborn from the Tangled Shore and Dreaming City. The Crow has a dream about a bird. It's a vision from the Traveler telling him to go to the EDZ and search a water treatment facility for a ship and a gun. The Hawkmoon. Eventually, the Guardian eliminates the High Celebrant, one of the leaders of Xivu's invasion of Sol. The spider gives the Guardian the choice of any one object from his lair. The Guardian chooses Crow, which, in case you weren't aware, people aren't objects or property. Anyways, the Crow is free now, and the bomb is disarmed. Now, the Crow isn't just a light bearer. He's a full-blown Guardian. No more shitting in mop buckets for you, Crow. Now that the Crow is living in the city, he needs some mentorship and guidance. He finds that in Osiris. Actually, Savathun. And our Guardian. He is given new drip and a mask to hide his face. He also develops an idolization of Cade 6, the last Hunter Vanguard. You know, the one who was murdered in the Prison of Elders by Aldrin Sov? Anyways, the Crow helps the Vanguard now. Empress Keitel has arrived in the Sol system, and she is not happy. Of course, Savathun and Xivu Arath just done a tag teaming of Torabottle, along with the Wrathborn crisis, which may or may not affect the Cabal. It's kind of unclear if it does or not, honestly. So now the homeless Empress is on a revenge path. She asks Zavala for a meeting, demanding that he serves on her war council. He said, and I quote, "No." A bunch of splinter legions of Cabal are fighting over seats on the war council, so Keitel asks Zavala to prove himself as an equal and worthy opponent. That means the Guardian has to brutally murder a bunch of Cabal attempting to climb the corporate ladder. Crow and Saladin help by running tactical for you as you mow down Cabal. Crow is also quickly moving up the ladder and is Zavala's bodyguard. Pretty early in his career, he needs to keep watch over Zavala as he goes for a walk in the city. A Scion attempts to assassinate Zavala, but Crow shot first, killing the Scion, and understandably Zavala looks where the shot came from, and of course, because the Crow is a tiny bit of a dummy head, he wasn't wearing his mask, so Zavala only saw Aldrin's face. Anyways, Osiris finds the Glykon just hanging out in space, so you get to walk around the Scorn-infested ship, learning about Callus's plan to contact the Witness. Keitel also helps further investigations until the catalyst for the project was found. The Crown of Sorrow. Callus used the dark powers of the Crown to contact the Witness, where they met in the Void of Mercury to discuss the Emperor being promoted to Disciple. Oh yeah, the Guardian also kills Keitel's chosen champion, meaning Zavala won't join Keitel's war council, but the Cabal Empire will not engage the city. Not quite an alliance, more of an armistice. Anyways, during the peace talks, a Scion again attempts to assassinate Zavala. His ghost, Tarj, has his light suppressed. Crow leaps in to save Tarj, and his mask is broken in the process. Keitel personally takes care of one of the Scions. God damn it, I wish that was me. Zavala now knows that the Crow is Aldrin Sov, and accepts him for the Guardian he is, not for the man who he was. Guardians aren't supposed to know about their past, so why should he be punished for it? Oh, and all those scions that tried to assassinate Zavala are, again, the scion rebels we talked about earlier. Anyways, Zavala advises Crow to stay away from the city for his own safety, giving him important missions around the system without telling him about his past life. Ikora just avoids him because, he has Aldrin's face and body. Also, it's probably a good time to mention some of the things that the Crow casually talked about in his idle dialogues, such as a report by Shiro 4 that the future war cult is up to some suspicious activities, and that Cabal ships keep traveling near Neptune, which seems to have a gravity well, almost as if the gas giant is hiding something. Like, maybe a massive cyberpunk city, or a massive paracausal fungi butt plug. Eventually, and almost comically, the last city has yet another crisis on its hands. The Endless Night. The Vex casts a shadow over the city, blocking out the sun. Nobody in the city has enough knowledge about the Vex to undo this. Wait, Osiris surely does know how to fix this. Of course, he was exiled for studying the Vex, and afterwards he just kept studying them for a really long time. Oh, yeah. Savathun body snatched that bottom, or top. They really haven't explicitly stated who's the top and who's the bottom in Osiris and Saint's relationship. Anyways, Savasiris tells Ikora about a fallen Spycer, one who is a traveler simp and is chill with humans. His name is Mishrax, but let's just call him Mithrax, the same Elixni we saved all those years ago. Mithrax has been converting members of House Salvation to his House of Light, so naturally when he is asked to help save the last city, he splooged a little bit, and he requested a safe space for his house within the last city, so they could live peacefully under their god, the Great Machine, the Traveler. Ikora agrees to his terms, shoving House Light into a ghetto that was the final boss fight arena of Scourge of the Past. So yeah, the last time the Elixni tried to invade the city is their new home. Anyways, Lakshmi 2, the leader of the future war cult, despises the idea of letting those stinky fallen in the city. She claims that she saw visions from her time machine that showed the city burning and House Light standing on the ruins. As the Vanguard and House Light work together to end the Vex plot, the factions plan a coup. Well, Dead Orb is generally just kind of chillin', but Lakshmi 2 plans an insurrection, and Executor Hideo of the New Monarchy tags along. They start by spewing anti-Elixni propaganda and encourage the human citizens of the last city to commit various hate crimes on their new neighbors. But in the world of people doing useful things, Mithrax tracks down the Endless Night's source, Tequria, Blade Transform, a taken Vex mind controlled by Savathun. So Savathun, who is currently Osiris, caused the Endless Night for the city and claimed that the only person who could reverse it was an Elixni. Interesting. Anyways, after Quiria's destroyed, the factions stage their coup. Lakshmi 2 opens a Vex portal in the Elixni quarter of the city after Osiris showed her how to do it. She did this in hopes that the Vex would exterminate the Elixni, and they would definitely cause no harm to the human citizens. No! So Guardians and House Light defend the city together until Mithrax can close the portal. Osiris leaves. He just dips. And Asher Mir was definitely there as a harpy. All the factions leave the city in their favorite rocket ship, so after the speaker's death and the 3 factions leaving, the government of the last city and of all the guardians is 2 people. It is Zavala and it's Ikora. That's it. Yeah, that's kind of rough. Anyways, after just leaving the Vex incident in the last city, Osiris goes to the Dreaming City to speak with Queen Mara Sov. Saint leads a fire team chasing his husband through the Dreaming City, and he attempts to give his husband a plea deal until Savathun reveals herself. Saint then realizes who he's been banging for the past year, and Mara imprisoned a god. Anyways, Savathun promises to give Osiris back to us if we help her get rid of her worm. They've already been together for like 5 billion or so years, so what's the point, Savathun? Honestly, if you want it gone so bad, just take some pet armor and call it a day. Wait, Savathun is Hive? Wouldn't removing her worm kill her? Yes. Yes, it would. Anyways, removing a parasite that has latched itself onto its host for billions of years is a bit tricky. Mara really only has the new Techians that Petra trained, so she needs the Guardian to search the Ascendant Plane and bring back the old and now taken Techians. Stakes get upped a bit as Savathun lets us know that we aren't the only ones planning to kill her. Xivu Arath was commanded by the Witness to track down and kill Savathun for betraying the Final Shape. At least for betraying the Final Shape the most recent time, which might be Season of Arrivals here, maybe a little after that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Witness still doesn't know about Savathun killing Nezarec. Oh yeah, and Xivu Arath controls the Taken now. Saint 14 and Mithrax travel the system in search of Osiris. Mara and Petra don't trust the Crow and refuse to let him help. So Saladin took the Crow under his wing, mentoring him, almost taking him in as a son, until Crow kind of talked to Savathun while she was in the crystal, and then she gave him all of his old memories as Uldren. So the Hive God gave the poor child an unbelievable amount of trauma in the span of 1 second. Side quest time. It's side quest time. You ready for side quest time? Okay, let's do side quest time. A super important awoken artifact is found in the Dreaming City. Well, not found, it's hidden. It's Agar Scepter, a gift from Mara Sov to Uldren Sov, but he never got it because Mara hid it from him. Anyways, Kel'Grath wants that shit, so you need to go and get it first. Start by aligning the ley lines, and then you get Agar Scepter to kill this measly Ascendant Knight that definitely isn't noteworthy at all. Oh yeah, also, there's some time to kill, so Zur and a magical cosmic horse hosts a game show called Dares of Eternity, and there's also a 30th anniversary pack with a dungeon where you go into the loot cave and get a new G-Horn. But that doesn't matter too much canon-wise, it's just some loot, and it kind of confirms the Paraverse, which is like a multiverse, but it's all of Bungie's IPs, but it's not really a multiverse, because Destiny is a multiverse with all the different timelines of the Exo Stranger. The Paraverse is like wider than that. It contains Halo, it contains like Operation Desert Storm, Myth, Oni, Marathon, Gnop. It has... Gnop is not in the Destiny multiverse, it's in the Bungie Paraverse, and that's where the Star Horse is from. Alright, let's get back to the actual fucking story of Destiny. Anyways, after bringing all the Techians into the real world, Mara Sov can finally perform the ritual to deworm Savathun. Uh-oh, Xivu Arath wants a piece of that Savathussy. So you need to protect the Techians as the ritual occurs. Some big Ascendant Knight, which you had already tussled with a few times, shows up to the ritual. This is Kel'Grath. He may fail at everything he does, but gosh darn it, he tries his best. Anyways, you fucking kill him, and the ritual is completed. No more worm. Mara tries to kill Savathun, but the Hive God just disappears. Savathun travels to the last city. As she is separated from her worm, a shard of the crystal that prisoned her impales her. She pleads to the traveler to allow her to bear the light. Of course, the traveler did intend to bless the krill before, and Savathun, through her trickery, had saved the universe, multiple times, and proved her devotion to the traveler. Imaru, a ghost who reads the books of sorrow, and led a Hive sympathizer ghost group, chose the Hive god of trickery. Savathun's right-hand witch seeks to guide her in her new life, to help her complete her plans she made before she body snatched Osiris and all this stuff went down. As Savathun is reborn in light, her throne world is filled with it. The light is everywhere, luring in other ghosts to find their chosen. Savathun experiments with the light, and she locks Rolk away in his pyramid so he can't get out. The Lucent Brood is born. Hive, blessed by the Traveler's light. No need for dark pacts with worm gods, but still empowered by the sword logic and other Hive arcana. Oh yeah, also the Lucent Hive are ordered by Imaru and Savathun to never harm a ghost, at least on purpose. After Savathun left the custody of Marasov in the Dreaming City, she went to her throne world and drove that shit into the newly returned Mars. Kaido's Cabal are already on Mars, preparing for the coming battle with the Hive on Mars. So, due to our close ties with the Cabal and especially Kaido's Empire, we could easily just ask for assistance to get onto Savathun's ship, right? Well, for some reason, everyone just starts shooting each other. So you cut through the Cabal base and fire yourself out of a cannon to breach the throne world. You get in, steal a dark artifact, and see your first Hive light bearer. A knight empowered by void light, resembling a sentinel titan. Complete with both Titan's ramparts and Doomfang pauldrons. The Guardian does what they think is right, and they destroy the Hive ghost. The Guardian's ghost has less issue with watching us crush other ghosts, into a fine powder than people using stasis. Why? I don't get it. I still don't get it after 2 years. Obviously, Kaido is not happy after she lost a ton of soldiers, so she threatens the Alliance and cuts her support, until Zavala tells her that the only way to defeat the Lucent Hive is together. So she gets her scions to hatch a plan to read the minds of comatose Hive Lightbearers to learn their plans and protect the rest of the system from Savathun's plot. While Zavala worries about the system outside of Mars, Ikora is boots on the ground on the Martian surface working with her hidden agents and the Guardian to learn a lot. How did the Hive steal the light? What is Savathun planning? How do we kill Savathun? What the fuck is this? She asked while pointing out the relic, the dark artifact on Mars that lets you craft weapons, access memories, and maybe some time-turning bullshit too. With the help of Ikora, Erismorn, and a Hive ghost defector named Finch, the Guardian would find relics such as Sagira's shell, a tablet of ruin, Savathun's father's worm familiar, and a shard of her crystal prison. Obviously, you need to figure out the importance of these items, so you take them to the Altar of Reflection. Well, you can't take the worm, but using the altar, you kinda accidentally make Savathun remember her plan. The Vanguard learns that Savathun didn't steal the light. She was chosen. This information makes Zavala question the Traveler for the first time, and this revelation destroys morale. The info leaks into the city, inspiring even some citizens to explore stasis, since the Traveler and the Vanguard aren't as pure or as good as they once may have seemed. Ikora inspects the worm using the relic on Mars, revealing the lies of the Witness, how the Hive were meant to be chosen by the Traveler, until the Witness tricked Savathun. Savathun planned to bring the Traveler to her throne world, to hide it away and protect it from the Witness. So naturally, the Guardian and Ikora charge into the throne world to stop the ritual. And how is it done? By making Savathun gain the memories from her dad's worm familiar, burdening her with her old trauma again, which gives you an opening to kill her. And her last words are, "Like and comment on this video. Also subscribe to Spycer and check the pinned comment for his other socials, like Twitch for cool live streams." Oh yeah, she also said the Witness is coming, which is the first time the Guardians knew the name of the voice in the darkness, and a warning to get ready. Oh, and Imaru got away. Obviously, a worm that's billions of years old and has seen some shit would be extremely valuable to keep around, so Morozov offers to host him. But she just shoves him into a grenade launcher instead. The Witness speaks to Mara, and all she can feel is its rage, an overbearing anger. Then, Morozov tells you to go to Rolk's pyramid and fuck him up. Rolk had planned to destroy Savathun's throne world to then get out and fuck shit up. But we fucked him up because he had too much hubris. He thought he was real shit. Turns out his KD is like 0.5. Not really. It's like 0.5 trillion. Anyways, we got the best of him because he was just fucking around. He found out. Anyways, the Lubrayans are now fully extinct now. So yeah, poggers. But wait, actually, they might not be extinct. The Vanguard is now sending a probe to Lubray to see if there's anything there. So there might be more. Yippee! A splinter group of Scion freedom fighters take control of a Cabal base on Mars, and Keitel can't send her forces in, so she asks Zavala to help her out. After the Guardian defeats the Scions, it's revealed that they are being bankrolled by Callus, and kinda by extension the Witness. Anyways, the Crow doesn't like that Keitel is holding Hive Light Bearers in a painful suspended animation, so he unplugs the Scion reading their minds. The Scion dies, and they happen to be Keitel's best friend. Oops. Well, Keitel demands the Crow's execution, and Zavala almost threatened Keitel's life until Lord Saladin steps in front of Crow, protecting the light bearer he mentored, offering his life instead. So Keitel brings up a counteroffer. Saladin would be much more valuable alive, and preferably on her war council. So he adds that he would still host the Iron Banner, and Keitel calls him a good boy, and she had that in mind for him the whole time. After Saladin is whisked away by his Empress, he fights his way to the rank of Valis, gaining command of Cabal of his own. He got to a higher rank in an extremely short amount of time. He got to a higher rank than Valkalor, and that motherfucker was a raid boss. Okay, Bungie. The Leviathan has returned, but this time over the moon. And oh yeah, it's just the location. The raid itself, still gone. And now, it's full of the same egregore fungus that filled the Glycon. But now, there's a dungeon where you go into the mindscape of Callus and fight nightmares of Galron and Keitel. The Guardian goes to spooky ghost therapy with Zavala, Crow, and Keitel. Eris helps guide them to turn their nightmares into memories. The Crow is haunted by Aldrin and his actions, learning to accept himself and that he isn't Aldrin, but he really isn't. He's Crow now. Zavala is haunted by his dead wife. Think about wife. Regret. Now he chooses to think about how much he loved his wife and his son, not how much he missed them, and stop blaming himself for them dying. Keitel has to deal with Gaul, and she beats him in a 1v1. Based. Anyways, Callus dips after merging the egregore-infested Leviathan with Nezarek's pyramid ship. Speaking of Nezarek, remember how the Elixni chopped his body up and kept the parts? Well, the Witness wants Aramis to gather them, so it releases her from her stasis prison. The spider flees the tangled shore and is almost intercepted by Aramis. But Spider's saved by the Guardian and given safe harbor in the Elixni Quarter, protection from the city and from the Dreaming City. In exchange, he lends the city a catch and a crew. So with the help of the Drifter and a pirate captain Mithrax, and I guess Ido is really important too, the crew sets out to find the relics of Nezarek before Aramis can. Eventually the relics are gathered, and the bits of Nezarek are brewed into a tea that is given to the comatose Osiris. Aramis is offered a place in the Elixni Quarter if she turns her back on the Witness, but she refuses. Also, the spider commits charity fraud, and Elixni warriors are officially accepted into the city's military forces. And also, Kelgrath comes back as a Darkblade under Xivu Arath. After drinking the Nez Cafe, Osiris wakes up from his coma and has hot, steamy sex with his husband, Saint 14. He then yaps about memories he stole from Savathun, including a dark, ancient power hidden on Neptune. Nobody trusts Osiris right now, after the whole getting body snatched by Savathun for a year, and being in a coma for a year after that, and then waking up after drinking God of Pain Fin soup. So without the ability to do anything above board with the Vanguard, he talks to Anna Bray, so the two of them could bring Rasputin back to life. Anna believes the War Mind could save humanity from the Witness, and Osiris wants to interrogate him about Neptune. Anna and Osiris agree that the only way to bring Rasputin back is for Clovis Bray to rebuild him. Unfortunately, humanity isn't alone in wanting Rasputin's big, powerful weapons. Xivu Arath is trying to snatch up the Warsats, while Rasputin is eepy. After saving the Clovis Bray 1 AI from the Hive and placing his mind into an exo body with no arms or legs, the Guardian needs to rescue the Subminds to help rebuild Rasputin. Osiris requests that you go on an investigation of an AI pillory site, meant to imprison rogue AI like Soteria. The Witness had also sent the Soul Device of Vex to read the data from the site to find any potential leads on the Veil's whereabouts. The Guardian beats the Vex with yeehaw goofy cowboy gear, retrieves a cowboy hat, and the Hierarchy of Needs, an exotic bow that is the remnants of Soteria's AI. Ikora gains a small amount of trust in Osiris after the mission's success, and in protecting the Pillory Bunker, you learn that it's actually a joint research site between Braytech and Ishtar, meant to establish extrasolar colonies. And it reassures that the Exodus Indigo existed, and Soteria was the one that launched it. Also, the Guardian needs to clear out an orbital Seraph station that has manual control over the Warsat networks and a cool gun from the Golden Age that used the K1 Anomalies technology. So after that, the Guardian continues gathering submine data and also data from Fellwinter's dead ghost. But Clovis Bray has his plan revealed. He wanted in the Golden Age to wield Rasputin and the Warsat network to destroy the Traveler and tyrannically rule over humanity with the ultimate weapon. And he wants to try to do that again this time. But, his ass got sent back to Europa, and Rasputin rebuilds himself and takes control of the Exo body. And he vows to once again protect humanity. If Xivu Arath is the hive god of war, then Rasputin is humanity's patron and god of war. Unfortunately for humanity, Rasputin runs the numbers. If he nukes Xivu's forces, she is empowered through the sword logic, making her more powerful. If her forces capture the Warsat network, they can use the Warsats to destroy the Traveler and all of humanity, also empowering Xivu Arath through the sword logic. So Rasputin, Anna, and Mara agree the best course of action is for Rasputin to, how do I say this in a way YouTube doesn't hate me? They want Rasputin to become a Boeing whistleblower. So as humanity's protector prepares to die, he gathers all possible info he has on Neptune, and the notable fact that much of it was deleted. He gives this info to Osiris and apologizes to Osiris for killing his mentor. Fellwinter, or otherwise known as the Sadala Golem. Also known as Rasputin's son. Due to how the Warmind was rebuilt, the two, Fellwinter and Rasputin, basically one and the same. Anyways, Aramis and House Salvation go to the orbital Seraph station. They use the old Warmind protocols to attempt to fire the Warsats at the Traveler. Rasputin plans to infiltrate the Warsat network and shut it all down. As this is happening, the Traveler leaves the last city, floating in Earth's orbit, reminding the Elixni of the city and Aramis of the darkest moment in their species' history. But the Traveler didn't leave, and this angered Aramis. And in her anger, and at the request of the witness, she pulled the lever. Rasputin, luckily, was able to shut down the Warsat network fast enough to prevent the Traveler from being harmed. And he tells Anna to unplug him. The AI god of war died. His sacrifice saved the Traveler and humanity. Well, for like a couple weeks. The witness has arrived in the system, and it is not happy. It goes to the Traveler directly. The Traveler acts tough, terraforming the witness's pyramid ship. But then, the witness asks the Traveler where the veil is. And with no threats, the Traveler folds immediately, telling the witness that the veil is on Neptune. So, the witness sends Callus, the herald of the witness, and the new disciple. We knew that internship would lead places. We're all proud of you, Callus. Come on, can we get a round of applause for Callus and all of his hard work in becoming a disciple? We're proud of you, bud. Anyways, Callus is sent to find the veil. The Guardian and Osiris choose to chase Callus to Neptune, defying Vanguard orders, and using Cabal drop pods, they crash land on Neomuna and discover Strand, the power to tie people up. This makes the Guardian and Osiris the first people in the universe to ever discover Strand. Probably, maybe, Anyways, they also meet the current Cloud Striders of Neomuna, Rohan, the Master, and Nimbus, the, probably a child soldier. Yeah. Oh, and there's also the Tormentors. They're imperfect copies of Nezarec created by the Witness, the first of their kind and an omen of things to come. As soon as you get to Neomuna, Marasov asks you to help defend the Earth. But, yeah, you're kind of busy, so you go back to learning Strand. Anyways, there's a thing called the Radial Mast. No idea what it is or what it does. Like, they don't tell you in-game. They don't really tell you in the lore. Actually, they just don't. What the fuck is a Radial Mast? All that we know is it probably just links the Veil to the Traveler. Other than that, we really have no fucking idea. Here's some information. Callus has it, and he plans to use it until Rohan blows himself up, destroying the Radial Mast. And after the least impactful sacrifice in the franchise's 10-year history, Nimbus basically says, Hey, Guardian, could you bring me back Rohan, my mentor? Can you bring back his core? You know? Yeah, thanks, okay? And you do as they ask and recover their mentor's core, which has all of his memories and stuff, I think. Yeah, probably. The Guardian masters Strand, and Callus gets fed up with his soldiers being dog shit at everything, and goes to the Veil personally. And the Guardian follows. Which, tangent, the Guardian being this close to the Veil means one of two things. Either the Traveler's Light prevents the Veil from killing Exos, or the Guardian is canonically not an Exo. Anyways, Callus dies, and Nimbus tries to fist bump his daughter in front of his corpse. Then, as Osiris screams at the Guardian to get their ghosts out of there, the Witness, as it had done multiple times before, takes control of the ghosts and forms a link between the Veil and the Traveler, forming a portal into the Pale Heart. The Traveler enters. We lost. This 8-mission campaign where we discover a new damage type, a new subclass, all this stuff, and not much, admittedly, actually progresses the story or anything. It all happens in the span of, like, at most 2 hours, but probably less. Like, it is an airlock opening and closing is how long this takes. Canonically, how? Like, I know it has been short of a summarization, but that is like the key points. There's 8 missions and some of them kind of drag. That's the whole story. It is an airlock opening and closing. Sorry, I just can't. Nezarec was brought back to life back when the Traveler terraformed the Witness's pyramid ship. Now, he is in a weakened state compared to his old final God of Pain days, so he could just give the Neomuni some bad dreams. I don't know why specifically Neomuna, but yeah, that. Oh yeah, and Guardians wearing any of the gear related to him. Some Guardians soloed this so-called raid, and Nezarec was done for. Kind of, mostly. Anyways, on Neomuna, the Guardian would continue to help the war-torn city. One of the jobs the Guardian takes on is repairing the library of Cloud Strider cores. Like their hearts are on display and they contain their memories and stuff. And speaking about Cloud Strider cores, what about Rohan? Did he get a funeral? Yes. And Nimbus went to it, as is the duty of a Cloud Strider, and they ran out during the ceremony. So the Guardian goes to the Black Forest and grabs a gun that Rohan left there back when the Guardian destroyed the Black Heart. Let's just go back to Earth. The Shadow Legion is taking humans prisoner on the pyramids. For some reason. They're apparently treated pretty decently and given goop for food. Your guess is as good as mine, honestly. In one of the prison breaks, Aramis warns Mithrax that he and Amanda Holliday are walking into a trap. Aramis saves Mithrax and the civilians, but Amanda Holliday isn't so lucky. Amanda Holliday dies. Everyone is sad. Then they plan to avenge her and thwart the Shadow Legion's plans by destroying one of the main prison ships. Osiris continues studying Strand and the Veil, making new discoveries to aid humanity. Osiris deduces the sources of our abilities. Our light abilities are simple to explain. Solar light is fire in the simplest of terms. Arc is electricity, basically, and the void is nothing. Yeah, it's empty space, the light between all things. It can influence gravity, density, atoms, like splitting and stuff. Yeah, the void is pretty unique in the light. Oh, and apparently there are voices in the void, like old eldritch gods. The power of darkness, like I said earlier, are derived from the mental aspect of the universe, meaning stasis isn't just ice, and Strand isn't just kinky rope. Stasis is the aspect of control and willpower. Strand is the river of souls, the universal consciousness. It's the flow of the universe. Remember back when Mars disappeared and then it reappeared? Well, Titan did the same exact thing. Commander Sloan signals a distress call to help Asa, even though Sloan is walking around with a dead ass, on God, taken arm. Asa just needs to give information about stopping the witness, but she's too shy. So the Drifter uses rocks for Sloan to link her mind with Asa. Zivo Arath wants to kill Asa because she's a proto-worm that doesn't follow the witness and the sword logic. Also, while Zivo is fucking around on Titan, she goes to her brother's sunken grave, and the Lucent Hive found out that Oryx's body is there. Due to not having a leader other than, the annoying fucker Amaru, they seek to use Hive necromancy mixed with a ghost to resurrect the Hive god. The Guardian stops the ritual, and the Hidden take Oryx's body and place it under containment. They discovered that Oryx is still alive, with dark energy radiating from him. Anyways, after giving Asa some rocks, you see Kelgorath now taken from Bones. You kill him like this the third time, and after catching some fish, Zivu Arath allows you into a dark temple, commanding you to insert the blade of your will into her temple. She offers you her heart and says that she is splayed open for you to receive her and to sharpen yourself against her as she sharpens herself against you. She also says you will leave ragged. Oh yeah, she's wet. I mean a whetstone, and so is the Guardian. Sorry, I'm getting a bit flustered here. Anyways, she gives you a gun that makes her feel good every time you use it. Oh, god damn it. Asa finally has enough rocks to speak the fuck up, and she reveals the origins of the witness. Barely. Also, after rescuing her from a Hive ritual, she reveals that she can't really help us get to the witness in the Pale Heart, but Savathun might be able to. And that means desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures. And let me tell you, I am desperate for Mommy Zivu to spank my ass with that Hive sword. God damn! Sorry, I really mean it, but it will probably happen again. Fuck, where were we? Oh yeah, bringing back the bad bitch Savathun. The Vanguard negotiates with Amaru about terms to bring Savathun back. Basically, Xivu Arath needs to fucking die. Eris Morn has done the math, and there is no possibility for the forces of the city and its allies to defeat a Hive God of War. But Eris formulates a plan to perform a ritual to become a Hive God herself. She is successful in this, and with the help of Asa, who answered when Eris was calling on the Worm Gods, she becomes a god. And as a Hive God, Eris is even badder. And she can gain more power through the sword logic and her acolytes' tithes to her. So, she makes a ton of guardians her acolytes, including our guardian, the player guardian. Eris Morn needs to be the god of something, right? Well, yeah, the Hive Gods choose their domain. So Eris looked into her past and decided to become the Hive God of Vengeance. After the great disaster, she sought to avenge the guardians that died on the moon. She lost her ghost and her fire team only to return to the tower and show the guardian her plan to kill Crota, then Oryx, and Savathun, and the rest of the Hive Gods. And now, as a god herself, she sets her 3 eyes on Xivu Arath, the last of the Hive Gods. Ikora Rey is worried that Eris will stay a Hive God forever, but Drifter wouldn't mind, and hey, I wouldn't either. The forces of the city race to give tithes to Eris Morn so she can face off against Xivu Arath. Problems arise when it is clear that there is no possible way for the Guardians to catch up to billions of years of mass civilization obliteration that Xivu Arath has under her belt. Oh, and Xivu's forces are now in Savathun's throne world. Imaru's talking about fleeing, even though he would die if that happened. So after stopping Xivu's invasion and killing a, and I quote, Leviathan Eater, Eris is still too weak. So she rolls the dice on a new plan. Threaten Imaru until he revives Savathun. He does so, and Eris spawn kills the Witch Queen, giving her an immense amount of energy, making her more powerful than any of the Hive Gods had ever been. Now she can fight Xivu Arath. But instead, she destroys Xivu Arath's connection to her throne world, making her mortal. By setting the sword logic aside, Eris loses her newfound power and godhood. But she did imagine herself having a throne world of her own. So maybe Eris has a throne world. But Toland, of course, is angry about Eris not killing Xivu Arath and giving up the billions of years of power that she had through the sword logic. Also, the Guardian finds an Ahamkara egg and sees a pattern in Savathun's wings that reveals the 15th wish, meaning the way into the Pale Heart is through the Dead Wish Dragon. Yeah. Savathun crafted the 15th and final wish to grant only one person passage into the Pale Heart. But the Dead Riven doesn't reveal the stipulation that only one person can go through before refusing to grant the wish until the remaining eggs of her clutch are recovered and safe. But the Soul Divisive are trying to recover the eggs to slow down the process. So after weeks of just trying to find some eggs, Aramis has left the system. Well, that's actually a while back. She left to return to Reese in hopes of reuniting with her partner Atheris. In other Elixni news, well, kind of Elixni, Fikrul left the Tangle Shore. That was probably around the Witch Queen. And now it's becoming apparent that his scorn are different from the scorn of the Witness. They're not mindless. Fikrul's scorn are somewhat of a cross between Elixni and medieval European feudalism, culturally speaking. Anyways, Fikrul sends his knights to find Ahamkara bones on Earth, and the Guardian stops them. Scorn Knights are nothing like Hive Knights. They are the scorn of Fikrul's house that are larger than a captain and are in power positions kind of similar to a feudal lord or lady, making Fikrul the scorned pope, and Uldren is, well, their father. The Crow, in a conversation he thought he was having with Mara, accidentally wished to have a chance to apologize to Cade for Uldren's misdeeds. But yeah, that wasn't actually Marasov, that was actually Riven. And yeah, there's a reason that they call Riven of 1,000 Voices. After recovering the eggs, Riven warns Mara that only one person may pass through. Mara gets angry. Everyone assumes that the Guardian will be the one to go through. But Bungie kinda accidentally leaked that the Crow chose to be the one to go through. And yes, Bungie accidentally leaked it. The holo projector presented the message a week early, telling everyone that the Crow went through. Anyways, we should probably explain why the Crow went through the portal. Basically, the connection between Mara and Uldren Sov allows them to always find each other. If Crow goes through the portal, Osiris could align the veil with the connection between the Sov siblings, allowing us to use Crow to piggyback into the Pale Heart. So as Crow goes through the portal, all we can do is wait. And as the city waits for Crow and Mara to connect, the Witness attempts to slow them down with a bit of a full-blown invasion of the Earth and the city. The Vanguard and Shax lift bans on powerful weapons to stop the forces of the Witness. And the Witness also creates a new Black Heart and places it in the Black Garden to poison the Traveler, which further slows Crow's journey. Because the Black Heart is preventing Osiris from linking the veil to the siblings, the Guardian needs to destroy the Black Heart, allowing Crow to finish his journey after 3 months, granting him a chance to meet face to face with Cade 6 and to seek forgiveness. During this difficult and trying time, all of humanity needs to work together. The foundries of the last city are working together, giving Guardians expensive, powerful weapons for free because 801 promised them a power hidden away in the Cosmodrome, likely Siva. But other people that need to work together include the city, the farm, the Awoken, the Elixni, and the Cabal. And that includes the scribe of House Light, Ido, the daughter of Mithrax. She researches all the possible information she can on the final shape, the Black Fleet, and the Witness, all in an attempt to find a weakness. She discovered how the Witness came to be and learns of its rage, its pain. The young scribe also gathers signatures from around the city to give to the Guardian to help their morale through the Pale Heart. With the autograph book in hand, the Guardian travels to the Pale Heart to stop the Witness. We only have a few days before we are able to wield Prismatic to fight the Dread as we challenge the Witness's plans to enact a final shape. We will finally be able to reunite with Cade after all these years and stand side by side with unlikely allies as we all fight to stop the end of the universe as we know it. And this video has been a summary of all the most important info you need before you face down the forces of the Witness within the Pale Heart of the Traveler. You know, it's kind of funny that we're paying for an expansion called the Final Shape, yet the whole point is that we never see the final shape. Kind of goofy, right? Anyways, thank you so much for watching, especially if you somehow made it this far into the video, which is crazy. Like, the video's already over, dude. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out that pinned comment. You know, all that lame YouTuber stuff. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's been a wild ride making this video, this year of content, honestly. And thank you for all the support, especially recently. It's been massive and crazy. Thank you so much, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I am going to take a much needed nap, maybe a long sleep. Anyways, thank you so much. Stay hydrated. Have a great day. See ya.